What if the Avengers were basically the only superhero group in the entire Marvel Universe? Recently, Jason Aaron got to tell an amazing Avengers storyline that went from issues 1 through 50, with earth-shattering events and all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and he got to treat it as if the Avengers were the only team in the Marvel Universe. Now, obviously, they weren't, but they got to do such crazy things such as the Phoenix War or Moon Knight taking over the world that no one else referenced, so it's pretty much its own self-contained Avengers plotline. I had a lot of fun with it, although there are a lot of haters for it, but why don't you watch our full story, all issues 1 through 50, and let me know what you think about it at the end of our video.
1 million years ago, 7 heroes were tasked to save the Earth from ultimate destruction. Agimoto, the first Sorcerer Supreme, Starbrand, the Cosmic Hulk, the Rider, the Panther, Iron Fist, Phoenix, and they were all led by the All-Father, Odin of Borson. Odin lifts his mug shouting, "Here's to all endings and to good deaths for us all." And Phoenix asks, "Is this really the time for drinking?" Odin wipes his mouth and he says, "I imagine your 2 eyes work better than my 1, in which case 'tis a very good time." The rider yells, "We've killed one of these things before. The spirit of vengeance does not fear, neither does his rider." Agimoto tells him, "The one that we fought was weakened, infected with something. Even the Sorcerer Supreme still cannot explain. These new ones are not. They know what was done to their compatriot." Odin goes back to fill his mug and Phoenix asks, "Is the vaulted Allfather of Asgard not even going to fight?" Odin turns back shouting, "Odin Borson has never walked away from a fight in his entire immortal life. I, woman, I shall fight. Till I have drenched the battlefield with every last drop of my holy blood, I shall fight. And then, once it's all laid to waste, my spirit will find us in the void, and we will make love in the ashes of affinity for 1 billion years. We will build creation again." Phoenix leans in, stating that is a fine idea, or perhaps they'll simply kill everything that dares stand in their way. Be it a man or god or giants from the stars, they will kill it with fire. As Phoenix flies into battle, Odin takes Mjolnir and sighs, stating, "Gods, I love that woman. Come, Mjolnir. Ragnarok awaits." The rider hops on his mammoth laughing, shouting, "Hiya! We ride!" And thus, the first and the last fight with the first celestial host had begun. Now, in the current day, Thor, Tony Stark, and Steve Rogers toast, with Steve stating, "To the good old days, to the Avengers." Tony asks, "Really? We couldn't even get through 1 drink before you mentioned the A word?" Thor slams his mug down, stating, "I was already through with my drink. Bartender, another!" Steve says, "I don't know. It feels like it's been 1 million years since I've said it. Or more than that, felt it." Tony begins to play with his tiny umbrella, telling him, "I'm just happy to feel anything at all, because I was in a coma and all." Steve says, "I get it. You're in a coma for what, a few weeks? Try being trapped in ice for the first 40 Super Bowls." Thor sighs, telling him, "I once broke into my father's private cask house, and I drank myself into a stupor that lasted 9 moon turns. I thought about doing it again, but every time I reach for a Mjolnir that isn't there. And it's not like I could even lift it if it were." Tony sits back, telling him, "We make quite a trio. Hydra Cap, Coma Tony, and Unworthy Thor." Steve looks at Tony and tells him, "You know what we need? We gotta put it all back together." Tony says, "Look, we aren't as special as we once were. I could list 20 names of people that are better suited for this sort of thing at this point." Thor slams his mug down again, telling him, "As the stars are my witness, it must be us. It needs to be us. Now more than ever. We 3 need one another, and we cannot run from that." Tony snaps his umbrella, yelling, "What? Are we just gonna sit around and wait for a startling new calamity to suddenly..." Just then, Tony's AI program, Motherboard, radios in that they're sorry to be that AI, but his satellites are detecting multiple energy fluctuations in a near-Earth orbit. Massive fluctuations. Ludicrously massive, actually. All of unknown origin. Steve grabs his shield and he says, "That settles it. Avengers, But Tony cuts him off, telling him, "If you say those words, you're picking up Thor's tab." "All right. Which way, Motherboard?" Motherboard says roughly 200 miles straight up. Meanwhile, 200 miles straight down, Doctor Strange follows closely behind T'Challa, the Black Panther, stating that this is an impressive dig site. "But I was hoping that I was not summoned with archaeology in mind." T'Challa tells him that it is not the ancient remains in these caves that he felt warranted his attention. It's the fresh ones. Doctor Strange shines his light on the ground to see a decomposing body and says, "Ah, yes, I see it now." T'Challa points his light onto a wall with crude carving, stating that this is what these archaeologists discovered, emitting an incredible amount of cosmic radiation. It burned them alive, and then somehow completely disappeared. That's what I need you for. Doctor Strange looks at the markings, all symbolizing the emblems of the current age heroes, stating, "By the hoary host of Hoggoth, The magic is here. It was Agamotto. The spells here are ancient, and as for the thing that they are meant to guard, it is quite large, something alive. Its fear still stains the walls. T'Challa focuses his light at one of the holes in the walls, stating that he agrees that whatever it was massive, at least 600 meters long by his estimates. So the question then becomes, where did it go? I sent a probe down here 4 hours ago. It was 200 miles deep and it was still going when it became inoperable. The deeper that we go, the closer we are to finding those answers. Doctor Strange tells him, I've seen this movie before. This is one of those things that blows up at our faces if we go blundering in. We need to call the Avengers on this. T'Challa tells him that there are no Avengers. The symbols on the wall date back to the Stone Age. Both of theirs are among them. Whatever is happening, they're already involved. T'Challa then jumps into one of the holes, stating, see you down below. Doctor Strange sighs as he phases through the ground, stating, oh, that's just great. If anyone needs me, I'll be at the center of the Earth. Also, at this time, up in space, Alpha Flight begins their investigation of the anomalies appearing in space that Motherboard detected. As Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, flies close to one, she begins to notice something and tells the station to sound every global alarm that they have. And that's when a giant hand reaches out to grab her. Back on Earth, Motherboard tells Tony, Steve, and Thor that the anomalies in orbit are suddenly spiking. They look very much like teleportation nexuses. Tony tells them, okay, short them out. Use every Stark satellite and disruptor drone that we've got up there. And Motherboard says that they've already tried that. Whatever is causing this is technology far beyond anything that they have ever encountered. Steve tells her, all right, then we're gonna have to head up there. Tony yells, the Quinjet is not capable of space travel. And just then, a blue light begins to shine in the sky, and Tony says, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, it's coming down to us. Back at the Earth's core, Doctor Strange appears through the ceiling, stating that if it wasn't for his magic, the pressure would be crushing him into a puddle of goo. How are you not? Actually, never mind, I nearly forgot. You're the Black Panther. T'Challa looks around at the hundreds of green egg sacs, stating that these things are not of this world, no life signs, but their reading is dormant. Back up on the surface in East LA, Robbie Reyes looks closely at the hood of his Hellcharger, stating that he hasn't slept in 3 days. You know, he might have never gotten into this whole thing if he had driven a Pinto or something. As Robbie gets ready to climb back inside of his car, he feels a rumble and a hole in the ground begins to open. Large green grubs begin to crawl out, and Robbie begins to shout, holy! If they're from hell to repossess the car, go right ahead. But if you think you're gonna come here and lay a hand or claw or whatever on my family, then you're gonna have some hell of your own to pay. Back in New York along the Hudson, Tony flies over a giant celestial body asking, so why is the body of the ancient star-spawned supergiants who judge and destroy entire worlds here? Carol pulls herself out from under part of the celestial body, stating, hey there, looks like I picked a good time to get the band back together, Tony. As everyone runs over, Tony asks, did you just kill that thing? And Carol tells him, no, it was dead when it came out of the portal. All I did was keep it from landing on Times Square. There's no time to stand around there. There's dozens more falling from the sky and we need to stop them all. All across the world, the bodies of dead Celestials begin to fall from space, destroying everything that they touch. But while some heroes try to figure out what's going on, others find themselves fighting against the swarm of newly hatched bugs. As Tony begins to suit up, he asks one mind-boggling question. If the Celestials are all powerful, then what the hell is strong enough to kill them? As Thor shoots off into the sky, he bounces off of something and Steve tells him, I'm pretty sure that question just got answered. Enter the Celestials, known as the final host. Tony asks Steve if there's anything else he'd like to add before they do this. And Steve pulls his mask down, telling him, only one thing comes to mind. Tony sighs, telling him, fine, just say it so we can get to work. Steve grabs his shield and he stares into the sky, shouting, Avengers, assemble! Over at the side of the celestial body, a perfectly calm Jennifer Walter stops her job, telling herself that she really should walk away from this. This is totally out of her pay grade, and it won't be good for her, delicate treatment right now. Except, something is drawing her to it. As she looks up, she sees several bugs crawling out, and she says, yep, that settles it. She's an idiot. She runs away yelling for everyone to get away, but a second later, she begins to Hulk out, shouting, Hulk squish! Just then, the hand of a Celestial raises and slams back down. Jennifer looks over, stating, you not dead? Yes, ascent, Hulk here. Hear voice and head, but Hulk not understand. What is cure? Cure for what? But before she can finish the thought, she suddenly disappears. Out on the highway, Robbie Reyes is racing towards the fallen body, stating, for months, my car wouldn't shut the hell up. But now there's a giant spaceman falling from the sky and crazy super roaches trying to eat my bones, and whoa! He slams the brakes as he stops just before seeing Jennifer Walters appearing, stating, okay, sure, why not? Back in New York, Tony hits the final host with another repulsor blast, and Motherboard tells him that his efforts appear to be remarkably unsuccessful. So he begins to yell, that's not true! I'm pretty sure I made it blink! the final host smacks Thor away, and Carol catches him asking, "Did anyone misplace a god?" As Thor flies back into the fight, Carol goes on stating, "We've done a pretty good job, but I've dealt with Celestials before and lived to fill out the paperwork." Just then there's a loud thoom as a pod lands in front of her. She reaches in, pulling out several small devices, stating hopefully these Omega-level warp grenades attuned to the coordinates of the sun, they'll do the trick. But back over with Robbie Reyes, he's beginning to realize that making his car hit a hulked out Jennifer Walters is a very, very bad idea, because now he's dealing with She-Hulk. Back with Tony and Carol, they get ready to set off the grenades on the final host when they see Steve and the Quinjet distracting them. One of the hosts reaches out and begins to dismantle the ship, electrocuting Steve in the process. Everyone runs in to try and save him, but out of nowhere, the Celestial that teleported Jennifer away gets up and punches one of the final hosts. Now, if you think back to the whole Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes moment with She-Hulk, you would assume that he's probably getting beat senselessly by Jennifer Walters. And you'd be right. Just as Robbie thinks that he has her contained, the two begin to feel a rumble, and the ground splits open, just as it did in front of Robbie's house. Robbie tells Jennifer that he knows that she probably doesn't want a friend right now, but by the looks of these bugs, we might want to reconsider our actual friendship for a bit. However, back in New York, the Celestial that attempted to save Steve finds himself with his neck at the end of a scythe held by the final host. Steve shouts to Carol to use the grenades, send him off with those things, and she tells him, "We're gonna have to get him clear before," but before she could finish, her and the others are hit with a paralyzing blast and a familiar voice calls out to them. Loki floats down stating, "I see you have met my new friends, the final host. Don't mind me though. I'm just here to lend a helping hand as we avenge the greatest wrong of all time, and to correct the grievous mistake made 1 million years ago. There will be salvation through global extinction, and it begins now." But while Loki has now made his presence known, back on the highway, Robbie Reyes and Jennifer finish off the last of the bugs, with Robbie seeing Jennifer isn't really backing down. He tells her, "Look, we just killed a bunch of giant roaches together. That means we're friends now, and friends don't go smashing each other, right?" She begins to feel something calling out to her, and she yells, "Voice in head won't shut up. Stupid beauty, dead space giant. Stupid voice say, R." She begins to lift both her arms above her head, and then she slams them into the ground, creating a giant hole, shouting, "Go to hell!" As Robbie watches, he sighs, stating that the scariest part about this whole thing, that she seems to know more about what's going on than him. That was either her telling him off or inviting him along. Why does he feel like he's going to get punched a lot along the way? Well, here I go. Back in New York, Tony sighs, telling everyone, "You know, things just keep getting better." Thor yells to Loki, asking, "What have you done?" And Loki tells him, "Oh, you can't blame me for all of this. I'm merely a facilitator. This is all the handiwork of the final host." And this moment of cleansing has been unavoidable for a very long time, since the dawn of the disease called man. I'm kind of surprised the beloved Allfather Odin never told you, brother. Perhaps Loki isn't the only god of lies. By the way, I'm going to be taking those warp grenades if you don't mind. Thor struggles to move, yelling, "I will slay you for this 1,000 times over." And Loki tells him, "Oh, yeah, I'm sure you will. You're the Avengers after all." But believe me, when the final hosts are finished here, there will be nothing left of this world to avenge. Loki begins to bring the warp grenades closer, with Steve telling him that he has a better idea, and he manages to reach for his shield, throwing it out. Before Loki could get his hands on the grenades, Steve tells everyone that he'll see them in the stars, and the shield detonates the warp grenades. In a flash, Steve, Loki, and the final host all disappear. With Thor asking, "Where did they go?" Carol tells him that if the warp grenades worked like they should, they just popped into the sun. Down at the center of the Earth, though, if you remember, we have Doctor Strange and T'Challa down there, fighting back the unending swarm of bugs, with Doctor Strange asking, "Is it me or are these things getting stronger?" T'Challa telling him, "It's not just you. Their power levels are rapidly expanding. They've tapped into a new energy source and they're feeding on something. This is a lost cause, so use that magic to get us out of here. I'll hold them all off as long as I can." Doctor Strange tells him, "You know I'm not going to leave you behind, so you better figure out a better..." But just then, the cave begins to tremble, and Doctor Strange shouts, "You know what? I'm taking it back. I'm definitely leaving you." T'Challa says, "Wait, what is that sound?" A few seconds later, the roof of the cave splits open, with Ghost Rider and She-Hulk coming barreling in. Robbie says, "Hey, we're the good guys." Maybe. Elsewhere, Steve slowly begins to wake up, and as he looks around, he asks what's happening. Loki tells him, "Wake up, you're gonna want to see this. It's not every day that you get to see a star from the inside." Steve says, "Wait, we're inside of the sun? How?" And Loki says, "Yes, well, you're quite welcome for being saved. Lucky for you, it's quite difficult to murder a sorcerer of my caliber. Not that there are many other sorcerers of my caliber." Steve throws his shield and he yells into a radio to hit the sun with everything they've got. But Loki deflects the throw, telling him, "Come on, We don't have time for that. Do you really want to render unconscious the only god who's currently keeping you alive? Besides, there's something I want to show you. Steve struggles to break free from Loki's grasp, telling him, it doesn't matter what happens to me. The Avengers won't stop fighting. And Loki asks, fighting? You call what happened to Midgard fighting? I'm sorry to disappoint, but there's going to be no battle between the Avengers and the final host. Down on Earth, Carol is listening in on the radio, and she says, he's alive. Alpha Flight confirmed it. Tony tells her, of course he made it. That old man will outlive all of us. Carol says, yeah, well, all the others are alive too. Tony steps up shouting, this is all Alpha Flight's fault. This is exactly the sort of cosmic catastrophe that you're supposed to stop, Captain Marvel. Carol yells back, we will stop it. Meanwhile, feel free to stay out of the way. But as the two begin to go back and forth, everyone can hear the sound of screeching tires. Then Robbie crashes into a building asking, so there may be a very angry Hulk in the trunk. Doctor Strange tells Robbie that he has some nice driving, and sorry about throwing up so many times. T'Challa jumps out of the car stating, look, there's more going on than all of you realize. We need all hands on deck. We need the Avengers. Over in the North Pole, the final host creating the bug stands there, and Loki says, you know, it's almost beautiful, in a disgusting sort of way. Steve tells him, whatever you're playing here, there's still time to change the course. Help us stop this. We know that there's a decent god hiding in there. Loki sighs. You see, Midgard is such a simple place, isn't it? Of course it is. You're a soldier who came of age defending the world from Nazis. Where I'm older than your human race's capacity for walking upright. And with that sort of age comes a unique perspective. I have something far beyond your petty concepts of good and evil. But if you insist on resorting to trite labels, then believe it or not, I'm the good guy here. Steve tells him the Nazis thought they were the good guys too, even when they slaughtered millions. Loki points at one of the hosts stating, if his brand could even withstand communicating with a Celestial, then perhaps you could ask this fellow what he thinks. The Celestials came to this world 1,000,000 years ago in a state of distress, desperately in need of assistance. Instead, it was assaulted by your father and the primordial minions of Earth. Steve shouts, the Celestials didn't save anything. They've been corrupted, driven mad. They murdered their own kind. Loki says, yes, the treatments may seem unconventional, but we do expect a full recovery. If you don't believe me, you can visit the patient. The two descend into a hole left by the host. Steve asks, where are we going? And Loki tells him to the root of the infection, an infection as old as time. Back on the surface, Tony gathers everyone around and he says that he's going to recap all of this to make sure that he's not crazy. The Earth is infested with giant bugs, covered with dead Celestials, and somewhere out there, Loki and his unstoppable new pals, the final host, are up to something. Likely something that'll murder us all. Did I miss anything here? Jennifer grunts and Tony says, oh right, we also have a raging Hulk here. That's sure to help us get a handle on things. T'Challa picks up one of the dead bugs, stating that he's been in contact with Captain Britain and the People's Defense Force in China. There are heroes all over the world already dealing with the destruction caused by the Celestials. They need to focus on preventing whatever is coming next. And Carol says that's right. That's why T'Challa and herself are heading to Alpha Flight Station to find out what the hell these bugs are. Tony shouts, that's just great. We're gonna do this split up into smaller teams thing? Good. That's a solid, time-honored strategy. Just then, there's a crack of thunder, and as Tony looks back, he notices Thor gone, along with Jennifer. Tony asks, did Thor just steal our Hulk? Is that good or bad? And Doctor Strange says, well, it's definitely bad for someone. Moments later, in old Asgard, Thor begins to walk forward, telling Jennifer, let me do the talking, and don't start smashing unless I do. Where are you, Odin? Odin leans up from his throne, and he says he's too old to be hiding. What is it that you seek? Thor tells him, the truth. For once, you're gonna give it to me whether you damn well like it or not. Back down in the North Pole, Loki tells Steve to behold the root of the great infection, the reason that this world must die. Behold the progenitor, the father of the Avengers, the father of them all. As Thor stands before the weathered old Odin in old Asgard, he says that he cannot believe that these exploits have never been spoken of. Odin tells him that he's had a long life. Stars would go black before he could tell them all, even the parts that are fit for telling in the company of a lady. However, there are secrets that even the All-Father will take with him to Valhalla. Thor says not the ones that he seeks. 1,000,000 years ago, he and his primordial allies defeated the Dark Celestial. They need to know how. Odin says, aye, they did. They did fell a weakened and sickly Celestial. But Loki's final host, they are a different breed. Not even the Odin sword or the enchanted Jarnborn can bring them down. There are many things hidden away in Asgard, but none of them will defeat the foes that they face. It will only make their ultimate death far more spectacular. Odin gets up leading both Thor and She-Hulk to a hidden chamber, stating that this place was designed by him that no one
was designed by him so that no one would ever see it. But what's behind the door could very well be the end of the world, or perhaps even save it. Open it if you dare, Prince of Asgard. Thor hesitates, asking what could be so powerful that it needs to be locked away. But before he could get his answer, She-Hulk cracks her knuckles, ripping the door off. A wave of cold air hits everyone, and Thor asks what is behind these walls of ice, and Odin tells him that that is their problem. Thor grips his hammer, telling She-Hulk, "All right then, race you to the center, Lady Walters." As the two charge their way in, breaking down the ice, Odin quietly says that he is only racing towards his doom. Back on Earth, Iron Man and Doctor Strange head to the mountains of Greece to find possible answers for the Eternals. And what they find is death and destruction. Doctor Strange looks at the bodies of everyone, stating that judging by the way they lay, it would appear that they did this to each other, or possibly themselves. Iron Man flies through the ruins, stating the Eternals claimed that they were created by the Celestial, and they were left on Earth to watch over humanity after the Celestial tinkered with humans. There's gotta be something that we can... But before long, Iron Man finds the body of Icarus, barely breathing. He rushes down and hears Icarus stating that this happened because they learned the truth. The Eternals, they were great fools. They weren't there to protect them. They were to cultivate them. To the space gods, the humans were a useful pathogen. They were the ultimate. Icarus screams out, and Iron Man yells at Doctor Strange to do something, but Doctor Strange tells him, "I'm trying, but I fear we may have been too late." Icarus continues stating that the final host, don't let them unleash the horde. Only the Unimind can stop them. Iron Man asks what is he talking about, and Icarus reaches up, touching Iron Man's face, telling him that only you can be the cure. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Ghost Rider was left to himself after he pulled off a piece of celestial tech from one of the dozens of dead Celestials that fell to the Earth. He uses his Hell Charger to try and locate the final host, and after learning that Loki and the Dark Celestials had escaped being warped into the sun, it brings him to the North Pole. He races over the icy waters, stating, "Great, I see the final host. Now what the hell am I supposed to do?" Suddenly the Hell Charger pulls itself underneath the ice, and Ghost Rider says, "That's pretty cool. Didn't know I had a submarine mode. Guess I'm supposed to sneak up on them, huh?" Suddenly, right, they'll never see me coming. It's not like I'm on fire or anything. Back at old Asgard, Thor and She-Hulk continue breaking through the endless walls of ice when they finally reach the center of the room, revealing what they have been looking for. A large blue jewel known as the blood of Ymir, the first of the Ice Colossi, the father of all the giants. Thor says there it is, and with that they can. But before he can finish, he collapses, stating it's too cold. "Take it, She-Hulk, while you still..." She-Hulk scoffs, telling him, "Beauty Thor is cold, why not say so? Hulk warm as there is." And then she kisses him, giving Thor her radiated heat. A short while later, outside the destroyed doors, Thor walks out holding the blood of Ymir, stating that "you have my many thanks, Lady Hulk." She grunts, stating, "Whatever, want to smash things now." And Odin says, "Aye, that we will. With this new weapon, there will be much smashing indeed." He turns away, telling them, "Make a good thunderous show, boy. Just as you once did, and when it's all finished, when it's all come to its oh-so-predictable end, when you lie in the blood-drenched ruin at the feet of the final host, face your judgment like a god. Say farewell to Midgard once and for all, just as you should have done." But while everyone prepares for their grand attack back at the North Pole, Loki explains to Cap more of the story of the first Celestial. He says that the Celestial came by some cosmic design. It just merely fell. It fell because it was dying. As it turns out, even an omnipotent space god can get sick every now and then, and it came down with a rather nasty infection. The infection would be called the Horde. The Celestial had encountered a swarm of cosmic locusts that were traveling in deep space. In those days, the Horde would normally feast on infant worlds, but there was even more power inside of a Celestial they discovered. These particular Celestial are now hopelessly infested, the first of its kind to ever become diseased, Patient Zero. It landed on the muck of Earth before it formed, where it vomited and bled and wept its radioactive tears before slumping over and dying. That sickness seeped into the Earth, flowing through the shifting seas and the primordial rock and lava. The infection stewed for 1,000,000 years until the entire planet had become diseased, forever altering the Earth's evolutionary trajectory. But why is the Earth so uniquely eccentric within the near infinite number of planets spread across the heavens? It's not because of some grand purpose, but because of that bubbling black puddle of celestial regurgitation, the monstrous things that would come slithering out of it, and the guesses as to what those monsters are? Loki lifts his hand and he points at Cap. "You!
You and your mutated gamma-irradiated web-slinging ilk. And this is who you have to thank, the progenitor, the god who died so that you might live. Down below the two of them, Ghost Rider slowly drives up listening. Whoa, we're God's vomit. Yeah, I could kind of see that. Cap struggles in his chain, stating, you just don't get it. It doesn't matter how life started, it only matters what we do with it, and what I'm going to do with mine. Cap stands up, headbutting Loki, and Loki quickly contains him, telling him, I understand how you feel, however, my story isn't over. The next Celestial came to Earth in 1 million BC, seeking out that progenitor who disappeared so many years before. The Celestial's name was Garb the Aspirant, and soon found the lonely place of the dying corpse teeming with millions of writhing horde bugs. The sight must have drove the poor Celestial insane. Or perhaps it was the horde infection that quickly found itself a fresh meal. Either way, the Celestial found no love on this world. Instead, your father and the prehistoric henchman bludgeoned the poor Celestial senseless and left it for dead deep within the earth. They hoped they'd seen the last of its kind. Clearly, they did not. But now with two missing Celestials, Earth got the attention of the entire host. The All-Father of Asgard prepared to face his final judgment. But in its wake, none came. The first host left all as it was. They left the Celestial buried in the ground, slowly succumbing to the infection. It would have been that the first host feared falling victim to the horde disease themselves and wanted to keep it contained on Earth, and their plan worked. But no longer now, huh? As you've seen, all of the hosts are now dead, all except the final one, all except for mine. The horde disease did not kill Zagreb like the progenitor. They changed him into the first of their own rabid brand of Dark Celestial. He was named Zabreb the Sorrower, and together with the rest of his kind, he infected and felled every Celestial in existence. But as Loki goes on, he suddenly feels the pull of a chain around his neck. Ghost Rider tightens up the chain, telling him, cool story, but I got one too. It's called Ghost Rider Kicks Your Ass, and here's how it goes. A few moments later, Iron Man and Doctor Strange fly by, attempting to land an out-of-control plane when Iron Man gets a call. He picks it up, hearing Ghost Rider stating, hello? And Iron Man says, how the hell did you get this number? Ghost Rider says, believe it or not, Howard Stark. Yeah, we all know that he's dead, but my car talked to him. Anyway, just wanted to say that I found Captain America and those space giants, and if you couldn't tell, this is Ghost Rider. Iron Man asks, where are you? And as Ghost Rider is dodging one of the Celestials, Cap says, I'm not sure, but I think we just passed Sweden. Iron Man yells, don't move, we're coming for you. And Ghost Rider tells him, yeah, that definitely won't be a problem. The scythe of the Celestial comes down, narrowly missing the car, but the force sends it off course, crashing into a nearby village. Just then, the trunk pops open and Loki, now in chains, yells to the final host to get him out of this Odin damn trunk, burn everything. Iron Man and Doctor Strange rush to Russia, where Ghost Rider's signal cut off, and they begin trying to help the people of the village as the final host begins to set everything ablaze. Iron Man grabs one of the children, stating that this can't be right. If we were the Avengers, we'd already have a cunning last-minute plan to save the world. Oh wait, we do! Doctor Strange asks him, do we? That Eternal really fried your brain good, didn't it? Iron Man yells that he can't hear him over the thinking of his awesome plan. Motherboard, what's the ETA on that awesomeness? The motherboard tells him 3 minutes. As the two land, one of the locusts skitters towards them, and Doctor Strange asks, were the insects part of your awesome plan? And Iron Man tells him, no, but I do love surprises. A voice calls out to them stating that they'll love this. A bolt of green lightning strikes, with both Black Panther and Captain Marvel appearing, and Black Panther stating, I just used the labs back up at Alpha Flight. Currently, me and Carol are charged with the same energy as the Horde creatures. And Carol says, in other words, just leave the bugs to us. As everyone stands before the final host, Doctor Strange says, great. The bugs are taken care of, and that just leaves the unstoppable space giants. Just then there's a loud booming sound as Thor and She-Hulk land, and Thor says, we are in need of faces to be punched, aye, and that we can do. Doctor Strange asks where have they been, and She-Hulk says, smashing and kissing. Doctor Strange stares, and Thor says, and we found an ancient magical weapon that will help us stand on more equal ground with these dark celestials. Thor breaks the blood of Ymir in half and hands a piece to She-Hulk, and as the two begin to eat it, She-Hulk simply says, tastes like hell. Thor chews it, telling her, aye, hell is definitely how it feels in my gut. Thor and She-Hulk begin to shout in pain as power begins to flow through them, and while the others begin to evacuate the rest of the village, Cap gives Ghost Rider a little pep talk. Ghost Rider says that he would love to help the world, but he really can't fit one of those Celestials in the trunk like Loki. Cap tells him that he is more than a car. More than any Ghost Rider I've ever known. Ghost Rider looks over at one of the dead Celestials and says, I guess that means I'm gonna have to upgrade. He runs over to the body and starts to climb in it, and after a few moments he disappears and the head begins to burn. Ghost Rider stands up in the celestial body asking, "Is this hot enough for you, Cap?" Iron Man calls out, "Nice work, Fast and the Furious. Now what do you say? Ready to save the world?" And Ghost Rider tells him, "Hell yeah, I am!" As Thor and She-Hulk grow to the same size, they all ready themselves for the final fight. Iron Man walks out in his godkiller MK2 armor stating, "I'm pretty sure they all heard that for 1,000 miles, kid. I like your style. Now come on, giant-sized Avengers, let's show these Celestials what it's like to pick on someone their own size." The four charge in, hitting the Dark Celestials, and Iron Man says, "You know, this day has been so crazy that the giant Hulk has actually become a cause for celebration." She-Hulk begins to yell, "No talking, only smashing!" Down on the ground, Black Panther and Carol get to work on the bugs, with Cap stating that now he's got his shield attuned to the same bug energy. It's time for him to get into the fight. She-Hulk bites down on one of the Celestials, stating, "Tastes like bomb in mouth, Hulk want more!" Thor bashes another, stating, "Finally, Iron Man, you have the body to match your ego, and I have a hammer the size of a battleship. Ha!" Iron Man tells him, "You are enjoying this way too much, Thor." Motherboard says reactors 5 and 7 are, but Iron Man asks, "Didn't you hear what She-Hulk said? No talking, only repulsing." She-Hulk knocks down one of the Celestials, and Ghost Rider says, "Wow, they really brought the Obliteratron down." Iron Man grabs the scythe of the scythe-wielding Celestial, asking, "Wait, you know their names?" Ghost Rider says, "Well, the longer I'm inside of this body, I'm starting to understand. The one on fire is Valknar, and this guy's Callus the Void. They're the leaders of the final host. If we don't stop them here and now, the Horde will keep making more." Callus headbutts Ghost Rider as Valknar hits Thor with a blast of fire, and he yells, "We may be the same size as them, but we're still short on power." Callus then swings his scythe, cutting off one of Iron Man's godkiller 2 arms, and he says, "Sure, let's try this one with one arm. It'll be a fun challenge." As the massive arm falls to the ground, Carol says, "Thanks for the hand, Iron Man, but we got things under control down here." Iron Man grabs Callus by the arm, shouting, "Hell with it! I'm gonna fly this guy into space and blow up the whole damn suit." If we manage to take one out, maybe the others will. But as Iron Man takes off, large hands reach up, grabbing him, pulling him back down. As the dead Celestials begin to get up and hold him down, he asks, "Does anyone remember the dead Celestials? Yeah, there's zombie Celestials now. Not only are we outpowered, we are completely outnumbered now." Thor struggles to keep Callus back and says, "The magic, it's starting to wear off." And Iron Man says that if anyone has a Hail Mary pass, now's the time. But with no one coming up with any ideas, Iron Man yells, "Screw it! Eject all core! Maximum effort." As the GK2 system starts to surge, Iron Man ejects out, stating, "That's 4 billion worth of fireworks. Never let them say they died without flair." Once Iron Man gets back to the ground with the others, he then asks, "All right, what's the plan?" Cap says, "Well, Loki said the life on Earth is the result of a dying Celestial." Black Panther then says that if that's true, then they really are Earth's infection. Iron Man tells him, "Right, so why keep the world alive with the thing that could kill us?" Carol flies down, stating because they saw the potential in them. They knew what we'd become. Something that could beat the Horde for them once and for all. Doctor Strange calls out, "We're the living virus vaccine." Celestials needed a cure for the Horde, and they saw that humanity had the potential to make one. After a few million years of simmering in a pot of infection and rotting Celestial, we did it. The cure is us. Iron Man calls out, "That's it! Akaris told us how to do it! The Unimind!" Okay, I know this is going to sound really hippie-ish, but if we're going to save the world, we're going to need to be one mind, literally. Akaris put the secrets of the Unimind into my head just before dying. It's an ancient method the Eternals use to combine their energies. Carol tells him that if that's supposed to be a sex joke, she's personally going to put him back in a coma. Everyone quickly gathers around the one thing that is big enough to hold their collective powers. Ghost Rider piloting the dead Celestial. Doctor Strange begins to concentrate and says, "Ew. Thor and She-Hulk really did make out. Oh God, I can't stop seeing it." Cap then calls out to Ghost Rider, telling them, "We're all counting you for this, kid." Ghost Rider shouts, "My brother Gabe at home is scared. Screw that." As the power release from Ghost Rider knocks everyone away, Thor takes the time to kiss She-Hulk once more. Iron Man shouts, "Oh God, they're doing it again. Hey Carol, don't you suppose you wanna?" Carol begins gagging, telling him he can go to hell. And once the power fades, Ghost Rider sits in the middle of a pile of dead locusts, asking, "Did we do it?" Carol tells him that he did great, Ghost Kid. The Horde is dormant. Black Panther folds his arms, stating, "Well, not all of it. The bugs inside of the final host are still firmly entrenched. We'll have to be pulling those out by the roots. Our fight isn't over." Cap helps Ghost Rider and he asks, "Are we really back to square one?" And Cap smiles, "Not exactly. We've got some friends who can help. On your feet, everyone. You know the drill. Avengers, assemble!" The Horde purged Celestials that were once dead stand up to fight against the final host with the help of the Avengers, and as they go into battle, the Prince of Lies beholds his utter defeat and rather unexpectedly laughs. Loki laughs so hard as he says, "Welcome back, Avengers." As the Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, drives his Hellcharger through the North Pole, he makes his way to the giant celestial that has become the new headquarters for the Avengers. When he passes by the security checkpoint, the computer says that his identity has been confirmed. Roberto Reyes is cleared for entrance. Robbie tells himself that it's kind of weird trusting all these new people with his secret identity. Hell, all of this feels weird. Ghost Rider as an Avenger? This isn't gonna last long. As Robbie pulls up, Cap tells him that he hopes that he's ready to work harder than he ever has in his life. And Robbie tells him, "You betcha, Cap, sir?" Cap then tells him, "Just call me Steve. And I've assumed that all of your homework was finished?" Robbie looks around the facility asking, "Am I the only Avenger still in high school?" And Cap tells him, "Yes. I'm pretty sure Thor got kicked out before ever graduating. But don't let that bother you. You're still the only Avenger who could take control of a dead Celestial and transform it into a 2,000-foot tall Ghost Rider and save the world." Robbie laughs. "So does that make me the strongest Avenger?" But as he finishes, there's a loud whack as Cap's shield lands, hitting Robbie in the stomach. And Cap tells him, "No, you're the newest. Everyone inside of this mountain has been saving the world longer than you've been potty trained. Now it's time to show me that the other day wasn't a fluke. Show me that you really are an Avenger, Ghost Rider." However, to fully understand how we got to this point, we're gonna have to look back a few days prior, shortly after the final battle with the final host. The heroes all turned to Loki and they demanded answers as to why he would bring such evil to the Earth, and his answer was simple: to reunite the Avengers. If it wasn't for him, they would all still be floundering, shattered, and hopelessly at odds with one another, still clueless as to their true potential and reason for being. Nothing brings heroes together quite like a good villain, right? If you all thought the Celestials were the only ones who see you as a great cosmic infection, then you would be sadly mistaken. You're all being watched right now. Even if you don't know it, you're all being watched from beyond the raw void between dimensions. And when they finally come, they will lay ruin to all in the time that it takes a hummingbird to flutter its wings. But before the Avengers could do anything with their new prisoner, the Celestials took him, leaving behind a present. The only one who could answer what that present was Robbie Reyes. The Celestials had raised the body of the progenitor, turning it into a shining beacon on top of the world it helped forge. A beacon of hope, the wonders of life, and a warning about what'll happen if anyone tries to stomp it out. While renovations are being made inside of the massive Alpha Celestial, Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, lays on an examination table and Doctor Strange tells her, "You're right, there is something different about you." Jennifer tells him, "Great, good to know I'm not crazy, or at least no crazier than the usual crazy. Just don't tell me I'm dying, Doc." Doctor Strange looks at the charts and says that he wishes it was that simple, but she is the Hulk. Her body is rife with enough gamma radiation to kill most people many times over. However, since the encounter with the Celestials, those gamma counts have skyrocketed. Her body is now storing more gamma energy than ever before, and it appears that she will sometimes release that energy in the most explosive ways possible, more so than Bruce ever did. But it could also explain why she appears to, have less access to her full mental faculties when she's the Hulk. She is in sense becoming a living gamma bomb, and they have no idea what could happen the next time she explodes. Jennifer slams her hand down, stating that she has a pretty good idea. Bad guys are going to get smashed, and the world will get saved just like before. These new powers are a blessing, not a curse. The Celestials needed her at her strongest to stop the final host, and so will the Avengers now more than ever. So they believe that they're going to get the biggest and baddest damn Hulk the world has ever seen. A short while later, Black Panther asks if they're really sure about this. Cap tells him, "We took a vote. It was unanimous." And Iron Man says, "I know how rare that is even for the three of us, right?" Thor tells him, "Aye. On this we all agree. There is only one choice for the Avengers chairperson. Congratulations, King T'Challa." Black Panther tells the three of them that he will strive to be worthy of their trust. So then, let his first official act as the chairperson be stating the sacred words, "Avengers assemble." But as the Avengers begin to hold their first meeting, an alarm goes off indicating a level 9 international incident is currently underway in the Southern Sea. Iron Man says, "Great first meeting. Nice and short. Cap always droned on for hours." Meanwhile, over in the Southern Sea, the Atlanteans hang off the side of a Roxxon whaling boat and the men laugh, stating, "Dead Atlanteans, probably a delicacy somewhere, right?" But before long, the boat is struck by a giant sea creature and a voice calls out to the men shouting, "Scream all of you air-guzzling bastards." Namor jumps up, ripping his way through the ship, telling everyone that down in the depths is where he'll be taking them, and no one will ever hear you scream again. We once again must look back at how this event came to be, though. It begins off the coast of the Bahamas on a cruise ship. Tiger Shark started to climb aboard to collect the toll for the humans that have been sailing in his seas when Stingray showed up to stop him. The two fought, arguing who was right. And all the while, Namor himself was watching with his war sharks. He stopped the two of them, telling them that their petty fight is over. The day of reckoning has come, and you have both found a simple yet profound choice. Join me or leave the oceans forever. Stingray tells him, you both know this whole Atlantis attacks thing never works for my people. So how about we talk about it? I'm one of your oldest friends on the surface. But Namor isn't answering with words. He's answering with fists. This man is an invader in my realm, and invaders will no longer be tolerated. The Emperor of the Deep has spoken. War sharks, finish him. The screams of Stingray echo throughout the ocean, with Namor turning to Tiger Shark, telling him, I ask you the same question. How do you reply? Tiger Shark looks at the torn apart body of Stingray, telling him, I'm not sure what's going on here, but this is a pretty convincing argument. Count me in. Back in our current time, Cap leads the charge along the bottom of the sea towards Atlantis, but he is soon met with Atlantean resistance. The heavy hitters take on several foes at once, but Robbie Reyes drives the Hell Charger through a pack, asking, how strong are these guys? They're tearing my car apart. One of the Atlanteans blows the war horn, and as the giant creature rises, Robbie tells them, I'm pretty sure I found the king. Cap radios in, stating, that is not the king. He just summoned a sea beast from the depths. Get out of here. But before Cap could finish, Robbie is swallowed whole by the creature. And then Thor rushes towards the creature, shouting, I shall avenge the rider of ghosts. Robbie then calls out, can anyone hear me? I'm not dead, unless the highway to hell is paved with whale guts. Let's see how this super grouper likes spicy food. Robbie revs up the engine, creating a hellfire within the beast's stomach, and he rockets out yelling, look at me! You can call me the human habanero! Elsewhere, Iron Man radios to Black Panther, asking how things are going on his end. Black Panther tells him that the guards are down, but it's possible an alarm was just tripped. So Iron Man asks him how. You're the Black Panther. Surely you can hack through their tech. Black Panther tells him, perhaps if they had any tech, but instead I stepped on a starfish. Just then, Namor shoots through the waters, punching Black Panther, asking, how dare you show your face under the sea? Black Panther lunges back, telling him, you don't need to make this harder than it needs to be. We're not here for war, Namor. Namor then responds, no, well, you brought an army to Atlantis. Black Panther tells him, yes, I did. The most powerful army in the face of the earth. Thor swings his hammer and Iron Man charges his repulsor cannon, but Namor catches both. As he squeezes down on both the hammer and Iron Man's hand, Iron Man says, I'd forgotten how fast he was underwater. Danvers, end this. Captain Marvel charges through the water, punching Namor in the face, creating a giant explosion. But as the lights begin to fade, Namor stands up unfazed and he says, every wretch under the sea would kill to lay their hands upon my bare flesh. Enjoy the privilege that you've just been granted, Lady Marvel. Namor then headbutts her away, with She-Hulk jumping in, shouting, Fish King, no touch, Hulk touch a lot. As she lands, she sets off a massive explosion, creating a crater in the ground. Namor jumps back, punching her away, asking, you're bringing a walking gamma bomb here? But just then there's a loud whunk as Robbie Reyes speeds in, hitting Namor, asking, did I just hit someone? Please say it was a bad guy. Namor stands up, lifting the Hell Charger, shouting, the Samaritan will never fall. Cap then calls Namor, telling him to stand down or the next Avenger he faces will be him. Namor easily tosses the car aside, telling Cap, you do not have long. Speak. Cap tells him, we understand that you want justice for what happened to your people on board the Roxxon ship, but taking the shooters and vowing to execute them will not bring justice. Namor waves Cap off, asking, is this where you tell me to trust the laws of man? Because those have never let me down before, have they? If I refuse to hand them over, what then? Black Panther tells him, one word, don't. Cap goes on, telling him, the surface world is just as much a victim as the destruction wrought by the final host on the seas. Namor scoffs, swimming away, telling him, you may take the murderers, but you would do well to remember these words of advice. Don't ever come here again, Avengers. The Avengers collect the prisoners that Namor took and leave as requested, and as Namor returns to his people reject him. 3 days later, Namor looks at all of the debris fallen from the surface world, and he says that he has gathered them here today because war is declared. A few days ago, the world-destroying corporation known as Roxxon murdered our people and hung their bodies from their ship like bloody trophies. I have sought rightful vengeance, but the Avengers thought to take those men far away from Atlantis, thinking that they were far from my reaches. Those men are dead now, choked on the polluted seawater that's spewed from their own toilets.
However, this is not the ending. This holy war has just begun. Let the Earth Breathers have their mounds of dirt and blackened skies. The surface has the Avengers. Now we have the Defenders of the Deep.
Along the long stretch of road is Route 66, and Johnny Blaze sits down to enjoy a cup of coffee and some breakfast before setting out on a trip. He sits at the bar when a blonde man walks up asking Johnny if he can take a seat next to him. Johnny looks at the man asking, "Do we know each other?" And the blonde-haired man tells him that he knows him. That's why he's here. The man then moves his hand, revealing a gunshot wound, and he digs his fingers in, pulling out a small bullet. He drops that bullet onto Johnny's plate, and Johnny tells him to take it easy. The man starts to glow red hot, and he says to take that, Hellstrom. He'll know what to... But before he could finish, the man's body bursts into a blinding blaze, knocking everything back. As the man turns to ash, Johnny takes the bullet, placing it into his coat, telling the bartender, "Thanks for the coffee." He goes out, getting ready to put on his helmet, when suddenly, a police car pulls up, and two sheriffs step out. Johnny says, whatever it is, they've got the wrong guy. But one of the sheriffs tells him no, they've got the right guy. He has something that doesn't belong to him. They're gonna need him to hand it over, or pay the price. The sheriff's voice slowly changes into a demonic tone, so Johnny lets the spirit of vengeance come out asking him, "You dare speak to me about payment?" As the Ghost Rider comes out, he slams his hell chains on the ground and he whips them around the transformed demon's necks. Johnny pulls them in closer as the fire burns hotter, telling them, "Look if you dare! Look into the face of vengeance! Look and burn!" Later that night at Damon Hellstrom's office, Johnny looks through a book with the pictures of the demon, stating that this is the one. He's positive. Anything they should be worried about? Hellstrom tells him no, it's just some lesser demons, but demons nonetheless. Ones that bullets shouldn't kill. And they said to take it to him? Well, that's not much to go on. But there is a contact that might point them in the right direction. The next day, the two head over to a shoddy building in the Bronx, and Johnny asks if whoever is in there is really going to help them. Hellstrom knocks on the door, stating that Curtis has been helpful to him in the past. They just need the proper offerings. The door swings open, and the large, grotesque man that is Curtis says, "It is a pleasure to see you again." Hellstrom holds out a box of donuts, stating that he'll need something examined. The usual price, a dozen assorted. Curtis smiles as he eats a donut, asking, "How can I say no to the great Damon Hellstrom? What do you have to show?" Hellstrom holds out the bullet, and Curtis looks at it, stating that he can feel a vibe coming off of it. That they are right to be worried, however, he does not have any of the details on it. So many old things are surfacing again. Must be because the time draws near. They would do well to check in with those clucking hens on Wall Street. Someone of his ilk isn't allowed, but you may find some of the answers that you are looking for. Hellstrom and Johnny leave, with Johnny asking, "Who was that?" Hellstrom tells him a deserter from history's oldest war, sentenced to the existence as he was just seen. But come, they have another stop to make. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a short, hunched man pours himself a glass, stating that he is quite disappointed in the way events are unfolding. Whatever the case is, my silver has been lost. That is why I've put you in charge of overseeing it. A pale-skinned woman says to please accept her apologies, Necrodamus. But at least the spy was dealt with. His secret is safe. Necrodamus sprinkles a pinch of ingredients into his cauldron, stating that their problems are twofold. He will determine the best way to recover the lost silver, but in the meantime, she will look to see if there are any other spies. You do want to redeem yourself, don't you, Razan? Razan stares in silence, and Necrodamus says that he will take that as a yes. Now go! Back with Hellstrom and Johnny, they walk into a fancy restaurant, and an old woman calls out to Hellstrom, stating that they don't see him around much. Hellstrom sits down, telling her that he has had duties elsewhere, and he was hoping to see some of his old circle. This place is, nearly empty. The man behind Hellstrom says that it's getting to be that time again. Every 1,000 years or so, they get a little tense, although it feels a bit different this time. Hellstrom sips his tea, asking how, and the man says that he's not sure why, but there's a fear in the air. A lot of them are cleaning out, getting to high ground, finding a deep hole, weathering the storm, all that jazz. The old woman powders her face, stating that Edwin's right, there's something wrong. But if anyone knows what it is, well, they're not telling the story. Hellstrom turns back, asking what about her. not leaving Agnes. So she tells him that she is far too old to be afraid. In spite of what others think, there's nowhere else to go. As the two leave, Johnny asks, well, what now? Hellstrom takes out his phone, stating that they learned that this is much bigger than they thought. There is a lot to do, so they should bring in some help. Johnny asks, anyone in mind? And Hellstrom says that he has a candidate, someone who covers a lot of the same territory. The real question is, though, will he even pick up? Elsewhere, two bank robbers jump into their getaway van and they begin to speed down the street. When from up above, a shadow jumps onto the van, reaching and stabbing the driver. The driver bursts into flames and the van crashes as the two remaining robbers call out. They start to show their vampiric fangs, and as they look up, they shout, "You!" As the shadow cuts the head off the vampire. Hellstrom reaches the voicemail, and he hears this individual's voicemail. It's me. You wouldn't have this number in the first place if it weren't important. Hellstrom leaves the message. Hey, Hellstrom here. I'm not sure how to ask this, but I was wondering if you could help us avert the complete and utter destruction of all existence. That's when Blade's phone pings with a new notification. A short while later, at Eduardo's rare and collectible books, Hellstrom looks at a tome while Johnny and Blade look around. Hellstrom says that this is good. What does he owe? Eduardo says actually it's on the house, and Hellstrom asks him why is that. Eduardo takes his glasses off, stating that it's compensation. How can I put this? Just know it isn't personal. You and the half-breed are free to leave, but Mr. Blaze stays. Hellstrom asks him why is that, and Eduardo's face begins to strain, stating, you know why. Soon Eduardo and the rest of the patrons begin to transform into demons, and they begin to assault the team. Blade shouts, book browsers my butt! Johnny brings out the Ghost Rider shouting, cleanse them with fire! As Blade begins to clear out the lesser demons, Eduardo lunges on top of Hellstrom and pins him to the ground. And just then, a fiery chain whips out, grabbing Eduardo by the neck, with Johnny pulling him off, asking, you wanted Johnny Blaze! Well, you've got the Ghost Rider, you demon cockroach! Later, Eduardo opens up his eyes as he hangs upside down, with Hellstrom stating, if you would like to get back in my good graces, you might want to explain what's going on. So Eduardo tells him, I'm dreadfully sorry. Hope this unfortunate misunderstanding won't damage our long-term relationship. However, there's a bounty on Blaze. The instructions were simple. Get Blaze, recover the silver, that is all. No one knows who ordered the bounty, but the messenger was Razan, the one called the Night Jackal. She insisted the job be done by tomorrow night. She was very clear on that point. Johnny asks, what is going on? I keep hearing about something coming. And Hellstrom tells him that there is something called the Covenant. The three head into the next room, with Hellstrom opening up the tome, stating that the Covenant is an ancient agreement. They're all familiar with the story, or at least the basics. There was a revolt in heaven. A third of the angels were expelled. The Covenant was a bit of the resulting bureaucracy. Johnny says, I'm not following. And Hellstrom tells him, think of it as a sort of diplomatic summit held every 1,000 years between heaven and hell. Once every 1,000 years, both sides form a demilitarized zone, a portal, where their emissaries meet to discuss terms, air grievances, trade prisoners, or whatever is needed. And neither side makes a move on the other. To do so would mean nothing less than mutually assured destruction, because the balance between heaven and hell is that precious. It has been that way since the dawn of time, and it will remain that way unless something comes along to tip the scales. This silver bullet, this isn't ordinary silver. Have you heard of Judas? Johnny tells him, the Bible guy who betrayed Jesus and hung himself? Hellstrom goes on, yeah, but not before he was paid for his betrayal. 30 pieces of silver, which means there is more of these little beauties out there and someone is turning them into weapons. Later in southern India, a satanic group is holding a ritual as they prepare to sacrifice a woman to their lord Satan. The priest shouts that their lord will reward their faith with eternal wealth and endless women. A voice then calls out, yeah, don't count on that. Eternal wealth and women seems like a lot for one scrawny little co-ed. The priest turns back, shouting to grab the woman, and the woman asks, is that a pentagram? Sloppy work. Doubt my father would be impressed. In fact, I'll be happy to send you all to meet him. As Satana bathes the cult in fire, she asks the priest, if it's endless women he wants, then let them kiss. She kisses the priest, and as she does, his body begins to burn from the inside out. Hellstrom looks around, stating that their father wouldn't approve of her kissing strange men. Satana lets go of the burnt body, asking if there's a reason why he's bothering her while she's working. He holds out the silver bullet and Satana stares at it, stating, no way. Meanwhile, elsewhere in a barren desert, two cars arrive in an old warehouse as a man begins to step out. Necrodamus tells the man that it is such an honor to finally meet with But the large man stops him, stating, "My time is valuable, so dispense with the pleasantries and tell me why I am even out here talking to a third-rate sorcerer." Necrodamus quickly opens the doors to the warehouse, stating, "Of course, allow me this short demonstration. What I have will change everything." Soon, everyone walks in, and inside is a group of angels strung up by chains. Necrodamus says that he assumes most of these faces are familiar, yes? Surely you know Barachael. Necrodamus then opens up a gun case, telling the large man that he knows what they've been at with Barachael for a while. One side pushing the other and back again. The war was designed to perpetrate itself. Not a war that could be won, but this will change that. Necrodamus takes out a small machine gun. Barachael asks, what is he going to do, shoot him? Go ahead, the cosmos will spit me back out again. So, Necrodamus smiles, opening fire on the angels. Instead of just taking the hits, all of them turn to ash. As demon horns grow out of the large man's head, he says, "Seeing is believing. On behalf of the infernal armies of hell, allow me to say, you have my full attention." Necrodamus goes on to tell the story of Judas and his betrayal, but that was what Judas felt. Judas felt that he was the one who was betrayed, ravaged by anger and confusion and guilt. Judas took his own life. As fate would have it, Matthias was the one who found him, which later would lead to him replacing Judas as the 12th apostle. The gospel of Matthias was thought to be lost, however, it was found. When Matthias went to collect the 30 pieces of silver that Judas was given, Matthias saw something. Judas's malevolence, perhaps his very soul, had bonded with the silver. The coins had become pure evil, but also powerful in a way that Matthias couldn't fully understand. So he did what he thought best. He hid that blood money. Eventually, the silver was found, along with a warning from Saint Matthias. Those who found it were true believers of the stories and continued to keep the silver locked away, and it's been that way ever since. However, that's the thing with humans. They're weak, they're corruptible, more cheaply purchased. The large man says that he is a very cunning sorcerer. The angels here are merely foot soldiers, an archangel is different. If I'm going to take the covenant, I need to take aim at Michael. So you better make it good, because I'll only get one shot. Back in New York, Hellstrom meets with Edwin, asking what is going on. The last time that they spoke, he said that he needed to lay low. Edwin sighs, telling him that no place is safe now. He didn't know what to do. This roof garden is one of the really old places that not many know about. Hellstrom then asks, what does that have to do with me? And Edwin says, you've got to hide me. Agnes was found dead. That grotesque friend of yours, Curtis, is missing. Anyone who has come in contact with you has died by some unknown force. Blade then asks, what about the lady the bookstore dude told us about, Razan? Edwin shouts, Razan? And Hellstrom asks, do you know her? Edwin says, I hear things. Stories about a half-goddess released from a 2,000-year-old sentence, forced to serve the sorcerer who rescued her. If this has anything to do with her, well, we're doomed. But maybe if we go to Port Brimstone. Johnny then asks what's that, and Blade tells him that he's only heard of it from the Fang circles. But it's your basic wretched hive of scum and villainy den. Could be some useful information there. Hellstrom then says, maybe, but I'm unwanted there. My dear sister, on the other hand. That's when a shadow looms overhead. Razan rides down on a winged demon, slashing at Hellstrom, causing him to drop the tiny silver bullet. The demons start to crawl up the side of the building to attack, with Razan swooping in once again, snatching the bullet before anyone has a chance to get it. Johnny releases the Ghost Rider, telling him, it's fine, I'll handle it. He jumps on the Hellbike, giving chase, asking, do you really think you can escape vengeance? Razan looks back whistling, and a second later, a demon leaps into the air, tackling Johnny, throwing him off the Hellbike. A short while later, after they recover from their battle, Hellstrom sighs, stating that it seems they have hit a low point. But with Satana and Blade, they begin to make their way below Manhattan into one of the worst smelling places in the world, Port Brimstone. The two head into the bar, and Satana tells the bartender, Perry, that she's been looking for some information. Perry tells her that he doesn't know anything about it. But even if he did know something, he still knows nothing. Things have been weird lately, and everyone is filling up the place looking for a place to not be seen. Something big is going down, and he's going to keep his nose out of it. A group of vampires overhear the conversation, and they lean in towards Blade, stating, it looks like your time is over. Since you're here now, we will start with... But before the vampire could finish, Blade stabs him in the heart, throwing his burning body aside. Satana waves her hand, setting the other two on fire, and suddenly the bar goes quiet. Perry tells everyone that the show's over. Personal dispute, go back to what you were doing. Satana turns back, stating, now, before we were rudely interrupted, I believe you have some information. Perry slams 2 glasses down, telling her, no. However, there might be someone you can talk to in the back. Now, get going. Blade gets up, opening the door, and a woman on a sofa says that the man they're looking for is named Necrodamus. Satana asks, is that so? And the woman takes another drink, stating that this is about the silver, right? Because Necrodamus has it. Blade takes a seat, asking, how do you know this Necrodamus has the silver? And the woman laughs, stating it's easy, because she's the one who gave it to him. The woman goes on to state that she used to manage the security for the Judas silver. It was just sitting there. So she figured, why not trade it for something, right? She got herself a spell book, higher level stuff that she wasn't used to. And that was the only way to get it. Blade folds his arms, telling her, right, never mind the havoc that Necrodamus is planning, right? You aren't exactly winning us over here. She yells that she didn't want to know what he was planning. But now this is getting out of hand. When this is all over, she wants to be known for at least trying to help. Satana then asks, how do we know that you're not just feeding us some false information to throw us off? The woman then says that there's another reason why she was trying to help. That freak Razan tried to kill her. She does all of Necrodamus' heavy lifting. Anyone who's ever heard of the silver is silenced. So if they don't believe her sense of good citizenship, then at least they can believe in her sense of self-preservation. Blade tells her, believing you and forgiving you are 2 different things. You gotta give us more than his gopher if you want to get on our good side. The woman sits for a moment and thinks, then snaps her fingers, stating, that's it, Ragnar. Blade says, Rag what? The woman continues, Ragnar is a blacksmith dwarf who took a turn for the dark side. He's the only one who would have the skill and motivation to forge the Judas silvers. Not that she's met the guy personally. Blade sighs, stating that he's going to take a guess and state that she doesn't know where he's located. Satana then says, actually, she might. Later at the volcano in Mexico, Satana tells the others that Ragnar needs the hottest possible fires for his forge, and he likes volcanoes. Once inside, Ragnar sits on his volcanic throne, stating that he should feel flattered that the famous Damon Hellstrom needs the legendary forging skills of Ragnar. What did he bring? Rare metals? Magical in nature? Hellstrom tells him, indeed. The task I have in mind needs a great amount of skill, and if your reputation is true, then we could be in business. Hellstrom goes on stating, word's gotten around about your latest project. Ragnar says, aye, is that so? I heard that there's a trail of bodies 10 miles long, specifically not to spread the word. Hellstrom tells Ragnar that he's a bit curious how it turned out. Like, if there was even the slightest mistake. Just to be reassured before he goes hammering away on the rare item. Ragnar picks up his hammer, asking, if I understand this, you want to know if the weapon forged with the Judas silver has any weaknesses. Ragnar spins back, cracking Hellstrom and Blade, asking, do you take me for a fool? Satana begins to call forth fire, with Ragnar telling her, I work with the fires of the earth itself. Your flames are nothing. Johnny brings out the Ghost Rider, stating, then maybe you should try mine! My fire burns the soul! After being wrapped up in the Hellfire chains, Ragnar states that the Judas weapon was his greatest achievement. To see it undone so casually. Hellstrom then asks, does the world really need to be turned upside down just to satisfy your sense of artistic achievement? Tell me something, anything. The next night at the diner on Route 66, everyone is sitting with Hellstrom drinking coffee. And Blade says, around the place where you got the silver is kinda vague. Johnny tells him, at least we also know when. Blade says, yeah, tonight. Doesn't leave a lot of time to put the rest of this puzzle together. Satana gets up from her seat, stating that she just realized something. Damon isn't thinking, he's procrastinating. She walks over to the table that Hellstrom is sitting at and tells him they both know who can answer their questions. He was there when the covenant was made. Hellstrom's face begins to twist and he sighs, stating, I was really hoping that we could do this without talking to him. A short while later, in the depths of hell, a lowly demon runs through the hall shouting, Lord Marduk, we're under attack! The main hall is under assault! And Marduk slouches in his throne, telling the demon to be silent. It's just his kids. Hellstrom and Satana walk down the hall. Marduk then asks, to what do I owe the pleasure of this family reunion? Hellstrom tells him, you know. So Marduk gets up, stating, the covenant! Yes, would you like to know? Satana then says, you're just gonna tell us? Like that? Color me suspicious. Marduk laughs. Do you not have any faith in your father? Fact is, I rather enjoy bragging. But more importantly, it doesn't matter what I tell you because you can't do anything to stop it. But yes, the Covenant, a sort of diplomatic summit every 1,000 years between heaven and hell. You could think of it like 2 divorcing parents agreeing to stay civilized in front of the children. The mortals being the children, of course. When I proposed the Covenant, there was questions how everyone would know a supreme being wouldn't just change the rules and play fair. So I accepted the challenge. The Covenant was made and I stepped away. Satana states that she doesn't understand, and Hellstrom tells her it's Philosophy 101. Can God create a rock so big that even he cannot lift it? Marduk goes on stating, that's right. Nobody controls the Covenant. Failsafes are triggered automatically if one side tries to interfere with the other. Hellstrom then asks, so Necrodamus found the loophole. And Marduk says, it's more of a design flaw. The wards around the Covenant keep the agents of heaven and hell from interfering with one another. However, there's nothing keeping the mortals from entering. Hellstrom then asks, what about the Silvers? And Marduk tells him, most see Judas's betrayal as the greatest in history. But from Judas's point, he was the one betrayed. He thought he was following a leader, someone who would throw off the yoke of Roman oppression. But he just ended up a martyr. Betrayal and vengeance are opposite sides of the same coin. Judas's spirit festers within the Silver, eager for revenge. But when Necrodamus assassinates the heavenly emissary, Judas's revenge will be complete. The result is that the portal from heaven will be slammed closed forever. Basically, heaven just cuts its losses, and well, there will be nothing more to stop the armies of hell from sweeping across the earth. Hopefully now you'll be a little more impressed with your old man. And all Hellstrom and Satana can do is stare at the giant army gathered at the Hell Gates. Back up at the surface, Johnny and Blade step out to take a ride, when suddenly a giant beaming light strikes down. Blade asks, Covenant time? Johnny tells him, yep. Looks like Hellstrom and Satana will just have to catch up. At the center of the light, two portals open, one from heaven, one from hell. The Archangel Michael floats down stating that it's been a pleasure, Beleth. And the large man from before says that it's nice to see him again. 1,000 years just flies by, huh? Shall we just waive the reading of the rules? After so many millennia, we both know how this works by now. Michael asks, the Covenant was meant to make sure that both sides obey the rules. Grievances are aired here. Frankly, I'm tempted to make an official complaint. Beleth smiles, telling him, I've broken no rules. Your infernal majesty is entitled to try and tilt things in his favor. It is the very nature of our conflict, Michael. And Michael tells him, with mortals, yes, not with the Covenant. The rules are absolute, and there have been rumors that there have been attempts to undermine them. Just a short distance away, Johnny says, I'm the key to this? Hellstrom tells him, well, Ghost Rider specifically. The whole vengeance thing is the key. When Necrodamus assassinates the Archangel, the gate to heaven will close permanently. My sister and I can't enter the Covenant, but a mortal like Necrodamus could. Just then, a speeding car drives by and Hellstrom says, and it looks like he's already making his move. Satana then tells everyone that may be so, but this horde of demons coming this way is going to make things a lot more difficult. So Johnny lets out the Ghost Rider and says, Necrodamus won't get far. Just keep the demons off. Hellstrom tells him, right. If the demons want fire, then they can come feel the burn. Up ahead, Necrodamus looks in his rearview mirror to see Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider, closing in, calling out to Razan to do something. Just then, Razan soars overhead, attacking Johnny and Blade, knocking him off the bike. Razan swoops in again, hitting Johnny to the ground, but he gets back up, asking, do you think you could bring me low? You do know that I'm one of the greatest calamities. He grabs his chains, whipping it, wrapping it around Razan's leg and pulling. Back with Hellstrom and Satana, the two hold the demons as best as they can, and then a voice calls out to them to rest easy, Hellstrom. Hellstrom looks back, asking, who is? But when he sees the group of angels, the leader tells him that they'll handle things from here. As the angels and demons clash, Hellstrom tells Satana that they have to hurry and help the others. Back at the Covenant, though, Necrodamus drives through the barrier with Michael looking up on the cliff, asking, who goes there? Necrodamus gets out, bowing, stating that he is immortal. But there is nothing mere about him. He is the one who would change the universe forever. He just felt a formal introduction was in order. Back with Johnny, he slams Razan to the ground as she kicks him back, stating that he clearly knows not who he speaks to. She is the Night Jackal, the half-goddess. Look upon her and see destruction. Johnny gets back up, telling her, ranked has no hold here. Even half-goddesses can burn. As Johnny releases a firestorm towards Razan, she leaps through ready to strike, but before she can, Blade rides by, jumping off the bike, sending it right into Razan, knocking her away. He lands, telling Johnny, hurry up and go. Hellstrom said that you're the only one who could do this, remember? Back at the Covenant, Necrodamus walks over to his trunk, stating, I just have one request if you don't mind. And Michael asks, what is that? Necrodamus takes out the RPG, stating, smile, you heavenly jerk. He pulls the trigger, firing the rocket, with Johnny speeding by faster than the rocket. Before it can hit Michael, Johnny jumps off the bike, taking the hit, and is blown away. He lays there smoldering. All hope is lost. But then, his head leans up. He gets up, pulling the silver out of his body, telling Necrodamus, you meddle with powers you barely comprehend. Behold, the Judas Silver, a weapon of vengeance.
And vengeance has always been the Ghost Rider's domain.
As the silvers tink from hitting the ground, Beleth says that this is rather interesting.
I suppose that would bring the covenant to a close. See you in 1,000 years, Michael.
The barrier begins to fade, and Michael says, I suppose that Beleth is right. I now declare the covenant concluded. There is nothing left to do here. Johnny shouts,
That is untrue. There remains the duty of which I have been charged. Vengeance and penance.
He grabs onto Necrodamus, which is on flying by, grabbing him, stating that saving his worthless skin makes them even. She serves him no longer. Once the barrier is fully gone, Blade then asks, so what just happened? Hellstrom explains that the spirit of Zarathos was the ultimate arbiter of vengeance. However much Judas may have felt wrong, Zarathos judged his crime against humanity to be far greater. Judged and past sentenced. And the Ghost Rider was the instrument to execute that sentence. Zatanna then asks, what do you mean it was? Hellstrom says that he wouldn't be surprised if the Silver's interaction with the Ghost Rider acted as a sort of cleansing. There's no real handbook for this stuff. So Blade says, wait, how could the Ghost Rider even enter the Covenant? He's a demon spirit, right? Hellstrom says that that is the common misconception. In Zarathos' case, the term demon is used rather generically. Technically, the spirit is a denizen of hell. But the more interesting question is, why would the most powerful beings in the cosmos design a covenant that a bumbling mortal could enter? Michael appears stating, actually, that's easily explained. It wasn't a mistake at all. Humanity has always had free will, or none of this would mean anything. That even means what you call interference. Men must be allowed to bring the world to the brink of ruin, just as other men must be allowed to step up and stop it. There is one thing that your father never understood about the war between heaven and hell, Mr. Hellstrom. Hellstrom asks, oh yeah, what's that? And Michael says that heaven is never trying to win. Blade then says, but losing sucks. And Michael tells him, I wouldn't say that we're eager to lose. Rather, we want humanity to win for itself. Our job is to make sure that you all have a fair chance. Mankind is the ones who are doing the heavy lifting. Each of you have a dark side, but I'm glad that the humanity halves took responsibility. Heaven owes each of you a favor. As Michael fades into the dark, Hellstrom sighs, stating, there's only one question left. What are we going to do with the silver? The night is ablaze in Romania, with one of its oldest castles slowly burning to the ground. The attack is sudden and brutally efficient, while swarms of bats rain napalm along the outside. Rats fitted with sunburst grenades scurry through the castle's corridors, reducing its inhabitants into ash. The sentries outside the main area have been standing guard since the 15th century. They have been fighting off armies of Turks, Knights Templar, and generations of Van Helsing. But they've never faced anything like the rotary cannon currently firing 2,000 wooden stakes a minute into their undead hearts. The most fearsome castle ever raised is engulfed in flames, but before the night is over, it will be reduced to a smoldering rubble. However, that is not enough to calm the fury of the squad of heavily armed invaders who now find themselves standing over an empty coffin with one question on their minds. Where is he? Where is the coward king hiding? Where is Dracula? The Shadow Colonel and his legion of unliving have just slaughtered the most devoted vampire disciples of the Lord of the Damned. The legion of unliving are vampires themselves, making this a war between vampires. There is someone else who knows a thing or two about that sort of conflict, and his name is Blade, who, at this very moment, finds himself fighting off vampires alongside Captain Marvel on the Roxxon Air Flight 959 after it was hijacked by vampires. As the bloodsuckers swarm Blade, they all shout that there's no safe place for them anymore. The castle has fallen, and Dracula's nowhere to be found. After kicking the group back, Blade takes out his silver-bladed nunchucks, telling them, don't worry your pretty vamp heads about what's coming, because whatever the hell it is, you ain't gonna live that long. But while Blade hack and slashes his way through the vampires, Iron Man and Black Panther are faced with a similar problem over at the Great Mount. Hundreds of vampires try to sneak into Wakanda seeking refuge, but it's just not there. Captain America and Thor are handling things in Transylvania, while She-Hulk and Ghost Rider take care of Monster Metropolis. As Robbie sends another vampire to hell through his trunk, he thinks to himself, this is kinda crazy. Almost makes me think that I actually belong on this team. But just then a demon child tells him, you don't. You're not an Avenger. You're vengeance itself, and you are the fires of hell in a human form.
Here in Monster Metropolis, we know our own kind when we see them, and you are a monster. You're the biggest hell-damned monster there ever was, or ever will be.
Robbie tells the child no.
I am not a monster. I can save the world.
Just then, She-Hulk grabs Robbie, throwing him into his car, telling him,
No time for talking to self. Time for other plan.
Robbie tries to tell her to wait, that there's a child standing over. But before he could finish, She-Hulk slams the door shut and throws the Hell Charger, telling him,
Just way we practice. Hulk plus Rider plus Hellcar equal Fireball Special.
However, as Robbie's car is thrown through the hordes of vampires back in Transylvania, Cap and Thor suddenly notice all of the vampires are fleeing. Thor lands, telling them,
The beast fled in terror before the wrath of the mighty Thor.
And Cap tells him, I'm not so sure about that. When suddenly a voice follows them, telling him,
That is correct. It would be because of me. I am the Shadow Colonel, and this undead dog here is named Sarge. The world is in chaos, and you may think that this is my fault, but we can settle all of our problems right here, right now, without each of us having to see each other ever again. All the Avengers have to do is answer one simple question. Where do I find Dracula?
Later, at the Avengers Mountain, Shadow Colonel sits in the interrogation room while Captain Marvel asks if they're going to go with a good cop, bad cop routine. Cap tells her no, he's got someone a bit more suited for this particular job. Inside the room, Blade walks through the door and Shadow Colonel says,
At last I get to meet the world's greatest vampire hunter. Did you come to say thank you or ask for my advice? Since my team and I just did in one night what you've accomplished in your entire life.
Blade tells him that he killed a bunch of vampires.
Congratulations. But you didn't get the big guy, and now you've turned the entire world into a war zone.
Shadow Colonel then says,
Just tell me the truth, just between fingers. Do you really give a damn about the humans?
And Blade tells him,
I'm the one asking questions here.
Well, Shadow Colonel laughs.
Well, you do! That's so very sad. But I've heard the stories. How you were born to a dead woman and some fanger made a meal of your mother while you were still inside, coming out half boy, half vamp. A dampier, daywalker, cheap, watered-down copy. You don't hate vampires, right? No, there's someone else that you hate more, but you can't bring yourself to put them out of their stinking misery. And that person is yourself. You're not a man, you're not a vampire, and you sure aren't a damn Avenger. So just what the hell are you?
Blade grabs Shadow Colonel, slamming him into the wall, telling him,
If you keep talking like that, this Daywalker will be the last thing you ever see.
But while that goes on, Robbie kicks his car, shouting,
Say something! We used to talk so much, but now nothing? How did the kid know about me? Is it true? Am I a monster?
But when Robbie gets no answer, he sighs and sits on the ground. Soon the lights go out, and Robbie asks, What's going on? Is there anyone out there? A voice does answer, but not one that Robbie has heard before.
In the name of Mephisto, in the name of the Lord Marduk, the Morning Star.
Robbie's skin bursts into flames and he shouts, asking,
What's happening? This hurts a lot more than usual.
Back in the interrogation room, Shadow Colonel headbutts Blade, asking,
Do you know who I am? I am the new Lord of the Vampires.
Shadow Colonel effortlessly breaks his cuffs, telling Blade,
And you and your friends can go to hell. And I know just how to send you there.
Back over with Robbie, he falls to the ground burning, asking the car,
What's going on?
And the voice continues,
In the name of Eli Morrow, and whatever other masters you may be serving above and below, in the name of vengeance I invoke you.
Robbie screams as the Ghost Rider takes control, and Sarge then tells him,
Now get in and start the damn car.
However, that is not the worst of it. Along the Russian-Ukrainian border, Vanguard and Darkstar notice someone coming their way. They rush the individual, but they stop in their tracks when they see exactly who it is. Dracula stops in the middle of the road, stating that he is a royal refugee fleeing the troubles of Romania, seeking political asylum in Russia. His name is Vlad Tepes, Prince of Wallachai, Count Dracula of Transylvania. Please, I have lost my ancestral home and I wish to know peace in the humble twilight of my life. Back at the Avengers Mountain, Shadow Colonel punches Blade, telling him,
It's been fun, but I really have to be going now.
Captain Marvel jets in, telling him, And you won't be going anywhere. But then she's suddenly thrown into the wall. Black Panther and Cap get ready to move in, but before Cap can act, Sarge jumps on him, telling Shadow Colonel,
We have what we came for.
Shadow Colonel then turns and fires an eye blast, blowing out part of the wall. And through the smoke, Ghost Rider drives in. Captain Marvel gets up asking Robbie what is he doing, and Shadow Colonel tells him, being a good boy and showing everyone what he really is. Captain Marvel pleads with him not to listen, but Ghost Rider opens up his mouth, releasing hellfire that knocks her away. A few moments later, Thor and Iron Man arrive and they ask, what is going on? What are we fighting? But before they could get an answer, Shadow Colonel and Sarge get in the Hell Charger, and Ghost Rider drives off into the night. The next morning, Black Panther looks over the damages as he scans the globe for any trace of hellfire. He also dispatched some of the agents of Wakanda to Los Angeles to look for Roberto's younger brother, in case the Rider should resurface there. Blade tells him that he won't. Shadow Colonel will want to turn his new toy loose, where he can do the most damage to the vampire leadership, which means if they want to locate their missing Ghost Rider, they need to find Dracula. Black Panther then says, well, on that front, at least we have some good news. Good, but alarming news. Later at Federal Penal Colony number 9 in Sla-Aleski, Russia, Dracula hangs in a device to keep him secure, telling Iron Man, there is a time when I would sink my fangs into you, but those days are no more. I've already told the Russians that I am no longer that Dracula. I have already lost everything except the last few fading wisps of my life. I wish to enjoy those in peace and solitude. Iron Man bursts out laughing, telling him, what are the Russians offering you? And Dracula says that in exchange for my wisdom, they have provided sanctuary. Iron Man then asks, what if the Avengers could offer you that? Help us end the vampire civil war and the Avengers will protect you. It'd be better than whatever Moscow is offering you. Dracula then asks, do you take me for a fool? You just welcomed the world's deadliest vampire hunter into your ranks. Iron Man thinks for a moment and says, well, you do bring up a good point. We did invite Blade to be an Avenger. Taking you wouldn't be a bad idea, though. Dracula then laughs, telling him, you wouldn't do that. You're about to be preoccupied. With loud clanging signs, the Crimson Dynamo fights off a prison riot, asking if anyone's got eyes on Dracula. Seconds later, Iron Man rushes in, telling him that Dracula is still nice and secure in his holding cell. And Crimson looks back, asking, what son of a... You are under arrest for breaking in. Iron Man stops, asking, do you really want me behind bars right now? How about we clean up this mess, then we talk about breaking laws. But meanwhile, over at Madripoor, a group of vampires are begging not to be killed. They're peaceful vampires who only feed on the wicked. Have mercy! And before them, a group of rats stands there with one tilting its head and squeaking. Seconds later, a massive explosion of sunburst grenades, and the rat bomber says the dining hold is clear. Lady Cromwell then reports that Snowsnake and Carpathian have been killing everything in sight while she's clearing a path towards the safe room. With having this many vampires in here, there must be something very important inside. Shadow Colonel walks past, telling the small boy thing on his shoulder that it's time to lock and load. This small trimming a man thing sure comes in handy for when you need a good supply of wooden stakes. Soon, the barrel of the minigun winds up and it begins to punch holes through the safe room. As the winding fades, Shadow Colonel tells Ghost Rider that they're weeding out the weakness of the vampire race. And this is where he comes in. We have to strike real fear into the suckheads and fangers of the world. This will be a way of proving it. Prove to everyone that you're the monster that everyone thinks you are. Get to burning, Ghost Rider. As all of the small vampire children huddle in the far edges of the room, the Ghost Rider looks for a moment and then opens his mouth. Hellfire pours out and it hits everyone except the children. Shadow Colonel tells him, have I not made myself clear? The children. We need to wipe out the entire pack of vampire children. Ghost Rider turns back. No! And Shadow Colonel walks forward, telling him, you've got some fight left in you. Zarthos Zakaracum Invictus. As soon as those words leave the Shadow Colonel's mouth, the Ghost Rider screams in pain as he grabs his head. And Shadow Colonel tells him, think on that while I finish up here. As the explosion goes off, a voice tells the Shadow Colonel to put his hands in the air. Shadow Colonel starts getting up, telling Ghost Rider, there has been a change in plans. Don't want to murder a bunch of vampire children? Fine. Mephistophilius of Vindicta. Ghost Rider howls as he gets back up, and the Shadow Colonel tells him, that's right. You can murder the Avengers instead. The last statement the Shadow Colonel made to the Ghost Rider was that he could murder the Avengers instead. And while this was going on, Robbie Reyes found himself in his own kind of personal hell. And that hell is the congested highway of Los Angeles. He honks his horn, shouting to move, but then he sighs as he leans his head on the wheel, asking for someone, anyone, to get him out of there. He'll even take the devil, giving him a deal. A voice tells him,
You better be careful saying stuff like that. You wouldn't want to go making any deals you couldn't live up with.
And Robbie looks back asking, what the hell are you doing here? Meanwhile, back in the real world, Thor is struggling to hold the Ghost Rider back, stating, his arms are nothing but bone! How is he so strong? Thor then cracks Ghost Rider back, and as he lay there, Captain Marvel asks, what did you just do, his arms? As Ghost Rider bathes them in hellfire, Thor says, it would appear that I've made him angry. The Ghost Rider gets back up, but before he could strike down Thor, Cap runs in, blocking the hit, shouting, fellow Avengers, we're here to help. Shadow Colonel then gets up, telling them, I must depart before the entire building gives way. Come, Rider. But before they could leave, Blade starts to shoot Sarge, telling Shadow Colonel, I just shot your dog. You still feel like running away? Shadow Colonel then says, you should be the ones running, because my dog will shoot back. As Sarge charges headfirst into Blade, Shadow Colonel and Lady Cromwell begin to make their escape while the Avengers try to fend off the other legions of unliving. While Cap struggles with Ghost Rider, Captain Marvel flies in, telling him, I'm sorry about this, kid. And she punches a hole through the Ghost Rider's torso, telling Robbie, if you're in there, I'm gonna drag you out one way or another. Ghost Rider leans back forward, telling her, you will know the power of the penance stare. You will know the sins of your people, Kree half-breed. Captain Marvel calls back to Thor, hey, can I get some help? And Thor slams his hammer down on the Hell Charger, shouting, I will not be bested by a car. Meanwhile, at the undisclosed facility somewhere in Russia, Dracula is carted into a large room as Red Widow stands over a pile of bodies. She looks back, asking the Count if Dracula wishes to make a proposal. A horde of vampires then run towards Red Widow, and as she slays them, she says that these are his followers who came to Russia seeking asylum. And after she's done killing them, what makes her think that she won't do the same to him? Dracula tells her, because the contents in my head are worth far more intact than spilt. I've senators and lords in my pockets, sultans and bishops. People of great wealth and power are always the quickest to sell their souls for a chance at eternal life. Perhaps you would like to know the ones in your own government who claim allegiance to me. Red Widow pushes back at her body off her blade, telling him, we already have spy masters. What else can you offer? Dracula then says, I will give you the Avengers. And Red Widow asks, what would you be seeking to be rewarded with that? Have the Winter Guard crush the pesky Legion of Unliving for what? To place you back as the Lord of the Vampires again? Dracula tells her, I have no interest in that. I carried an entire people on my back, and all that it has left me with is tired. I only want a place for myself where I can remain alone for however many days I have left. Red Widow waves her arm, telling him, that is a fair proposal. Allow me to present Moscow's counteroffer. These vampires were once your consorts, right? I imagine that there are many nights that you have spent enveloped in the naked embrace of the splendid specimens, exploring every inch of their smooth, undead bodies. Or so you thought. Red Widow slips the throat of one of the vampires, telling him, I will show you parts of their bodies that you have never seen. Tell me everything, every dark secret, everything of possible value, now, without hesitation. And then I will kill them quickly, and we will talk about the rest of your reward. Back in Madripoor, the Ghost Rider stares into Captain Marvel's eyes, telling her, once your face turns to ash, the others will join you in penance. And after a few moments of nothing happening, he stops. This is impossible. No mortal can withstand the penance stare. Captain Marvel charges up her fist, quietly asking, when did I ever say that I was mortal? She releases the energy right back into the Ghost Rider's stomach, blasting him away. He then starts to get back up, asking, you think you know punishment? You do not. The spirit will show you. The Ghost Rider's body begins to expand, ready to explode. And Thor grabs the Hell Charger, telling him, this is your last chance. And this, and you can go to hell in your own damned car. Captain Marvel and Captain America struggle to keep Ghost Rider in place, but that's when Blade bites down on Ghost Rider's neck. Ghost Rider slowly starts to return back to normal, with Blade spitting out a bit of hellfire, telling him, that ought to do it. Captain Marvel then asks, what did you just do? And Blade tells her, I'm a vampire, sort of. I did what vampires do. The rider had a sickness in his veins, so I sucked it out. Anyone who makes a joke gets nunchucked to death. A short while later, as the smoke clears, Cap kneels down, asking Robbie, are you okay? And Robbie tells him, it wasn't me. I swear it wasn't me, Cap. I would never hurt you guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And after a short while, Captain Marvel, Captain America, and Black Panther talk amongst themselves off in the distance, with Robbie stating that they're going to send him home, aren't they? Blade then asks, do you think that it'll be a good thing? And Robbie says, I'm not sure what to think anymore. Am I an Avenger? Am I a hero? Or am I a monster? What did those vampires do to me? How did they make me into such an actual monster? And Blade laughs under his breath, with Robbie asking, what's so funny? Blade tells him, the writer never picks geniuses for host, does it? You got someone you care about, right? Someone normal? Someone still breathing? And Robbie says, yeah, you have to get out now. No matter what it takes, get out so that person can stay breathing. However, a short while later, outside Federal Penal Colony number 9, Lady Cromwell then asks, why are you here? Just to blow up a prison full of humans? And Shadow Colonel tells her, the rats aren't filled with grenades this time. Well, not the usual kind at least. We've thinned the herd plenty. We've weeded out enough vampires. It's time we made some new ones. And inside the prison, the rat bomber's rats begin detonating the blood bomb packs all over the prisoners. And within minutes, new vampires are born. As reports of a vampire outbreak reaches the Avengers, they rush over, leaving Robbie Reyes behind. And Robbie watches them leave, telling them, I've been told to go home. I'm not fit for duty. Hell, was I ever? And I didn't even tell them what I saw when I was out of it. I was trapped in a burned out hell highway. But maybe it was all in my head? Either way, it scares me to death. The worst part is how he smiled when it was ending. Inside Robbie's mind, he remembers as he started to regain control, shouting that this is it. And a voice laughed, telling him, sure, you're back in control. For now. But believe me, kid, you'll be back. And the king of hell will be waiting. And the next time that you see me, we're going to be doing a little more than just talking. We're going to be having ourselves a little ride. As Robbie looked back, he saw Johnny Blaze, and he knew that Johnny was the greatest Ghost Rider that had ever lived. But now there's something chilling the bones. Maybe it's because he already knows that he already is more of a monster than Johnny ever was. Back over at the undisclosed Russian facility, Dracula cries, telling them, that's all I know. Every dark secret in the last 500 years. On the coffins of my children, I swear. Red Widow tells him that Moscow accepts his proposal and now take him away. As Dracula is carted back, Ursa Major says that was kinda sad. You hear all these stories about how Dracula is this big bad monster, but he's reduced to such a blubbering, pathetic mess. Makes you think. Monsters can get old too, huh? Red Widow then asks, where does one put an old monster when they need to never look upon it again? Where is the quietest, most peaceful place in all of their motherland? Ursa Major laughs, telling him that there's only one place that comes to mind. And the next morning, Dracula is thrown into the Chernobyl exclusion zone in Ukraine. The guard's laughing, telling him that this is exactly what he asked for. Nice and quiet. But later at the Federal Penal Colony, the Winter Guard lay defeated at the feet of the Legion of Unliving, with Red Widow simply waiting. Sarge says that Carpathian wants to know if they should turn the bear, and Shadow Colonel tells him that he has no use for bears. Spiders, however. Red Widow then asks, what do you want? Dracula, that can be arranged, but I'll need something in return. Shadow Colonel then asks, is your life not enough? And Red Widow tells him to just stick to killing vampires. He's out of his league with her. Shadow Colonel says, right, so you made a deal with the old king. What kind of deal could you offer the new one? But a voice then shouts, asking if they would like to hear their proposal. Because it goes like this. Avengers, assemble! Blade leads the charge, and the two groups quickly begin battling. Sarge leads up biting She-Hulk, telling her, I will tear the flesh off this one. She-Hulk then asking if he's the dog that hurt the Ghost Rider, because they brought someone to meet him. And just then, Thori flies in biting Sarge, yelling, Thundermaster Day, you think better murder dog than Thori? Thori, make murder now! Blade cuts through Shadow Colonel's minigun, telling him, there goes that. Your head'll be next. Shadow Colonel then drops the minigun as the two wooden spikes spring out of his wrist, and he fires a vision blast at Blade, telling him, you really are pathetic. You could have been a warrior in the New Kingdom, but instead, you'll just be another bloodstain on my boots. Shadow Colonel then punches, but Blade catches the punch as the stake stabs through his hand, and he says that he's gonna need bigger boots. Blade then drops down, cutting off one of Shadow Colonel's legs, telling him, on second thought, I take back what I said about your boots. Shadow Colonel kicks back with the stump, shouting, I'll kill you for that! You have no right to be drawing blood. Shadow Colonel kicks him again with another blast, but Blade grabs Boy Thing, whipping him up, slicing off one of the Shadow Colonel's arms. Shadow Colonel leaps forward, grabbing Blade, telling him, "I only need one arm to tear off the dampier head of yours." As Shadow Colonel throws him to the ground, he tells Blade that he isn't even worth the fangs. And just then a voice says, "Yeah, about those fangs." And Robbie charges through, punching through Shadow Colonel's helmet. Blade gets it back up, setting Boy Thing on his shoulder, telling him, "That wasn't bad, kid. Didn't think he'd be back. But stand back while this gets finished." Black Panther tells him, "Not like this. Your way isn't how the Avengers operate." And Blade laughs. "Well, then it looks like I'm going to quit the Avengers." Black Panther shouts for him to wait. He's been working on a cure that could reverse, but before he could finish, Blade cuts Shadow Colonel's head clean off. And She-Hulk yells, "Too many! Hulk have to kill rats all at once!" Black Panther then turns back, shouting that she needs to calm down. She's erupting with too much gamma energy. She's going to, but a few moments later, a gamma bomb goes off with Iron Man flying out holding Cap, telling him, "I thought the Russians hated us before. We just blew up a Hulk in their backyard." Cap calls out that they just lost visual on the vampires. Does anyone have any eyes on it? And Blade radios in, telling them that the Legion got away again. Well, most of them. Thor stands over Sarge, shouting, "Thor, king of all dogs!" And while the Avengers go back to the mountain, elsewhere, Shadow Colonel sits with his head next to his decapitated body. Lady Cromwell says that the Dampier Blade is the one who did this, but the Colonel did have his part. They felt that he still deserved a place in the new kingdom. A hand reaches down, picking up the head, and a voice says, "That is for me to judge. After all, he is my son." Dracula holds up the Shadow Colonel's head, and Shadow Colonel asks, "Is this it? Is this it, Father? Is this the promised land?" It's beautiful." Dracula tells him, "Yes, Zarius, you did well, boy." Dracula then tosses the head behind him, telling everyone, "You did exactly how I wanted. You are free now. Free to rebuild stronger than ever before. Welcome home, my bloody disciples. Welcome to the kingdom of the vampires." As the War of the Realms came to an end, the Avengers take a much-needed break in the undersea levels of Avengers Mountain. While Iron Man and Thor sit in the hot spring, Thor keeps picking up and putting down his hammer, while Iron Man asks, "Are you, just gonna keep doing that? Should I leave the two of you alone, Thor?" Thor picks up the hammer once again, shouting, "Nay! We have claimed a hard-fought victory in the greatest war the realms have ever known. Let us enjoy the victory together, Brother Stark, here in the Avengers tub of hotness." Iron Man sighs. "Fine, just please stop playing with your hammer." Thor swings Mjolnir around, yelling, "The God of Thunder makes no promise." As the two of them go back and forth, Captain America passes by, and the two tell him to join in their fun. Cap says that he can't just yet. The whole world is still a mess, and he doesn't exactly have a swimsuit handy. That's when both Iron Man and Thor yell, "Neither do we!" After dressing down, Cap steps into the spring, telling them, "Fine, maybe like 5 minutes." But as he sits down, he lets out a sigh of relief, stating, "Maybe 6 minutes. Oh boy. Avengers assemble." Meanwhile, over in Washington, D.C., director Phil Coulson gets a report from his Fury LMDs that there appears to be an intruder here on sublevel 9 of the Pentagon. No one is even aware of this level aside from... Coulson tells the LMDs to activate the Fury's protocol and lock the floor down. If he's right as to who their intruder is, they should be here right about. Just then the air vent pops open and Black Panther jumps down, telling them, "Sorry for the unscheduled visit. I'm afraid that we have much to discuss, Coulson." Coulson tells Black Panther that he knows that the diplomatic immunity won't begin to cover the international incident that he is now sparking. Furies arrest him. Black Panther releases an EMP wave, disabling the LMDs, and he tells him, "I am here to prevent incidents. Specifically, the impending confrontation between the Avengers and the Squadron Supreme of America." Coulson points his gun, asking, "Did you just threaten the duly sanctioned Super Guardians of the United States, the same squadron who valiantly defended the nation's capital from frost giants?" Black Panther swipes his arm, cutting the gun's barrel, telling him, "The Squadron defended this country by shepherding frost giants to the US border while they proceeded to rampage through the streets of Canada." And Coulson says that Canada is not my problem. And Black Panther asks, "Are you our problem? Are you asking if the King of Wakanda and chairman of the Avengers is considered an enemy by the United States government? I'm not at liberty to speak on such classified information, T'Challa." Black Panther slams his hand down on the desk, telling Coulson, "You are a murderer. Does the Squadron Supreme know what you are? Just then, a prismatic portal begins to open, and Coulson tells him, "That's a good question. Why don't you ask them yourself?" But meanwhile, back at the docks of the Avengers Mountain, Robbie Reyes asks Captain Marvel if she's sure that this is a good idea. She asks, what, stealing Iron Man's speedboat? Well, if he was going to build something that easy to hotwire, he's basically asking for it to get stolen. Besides, we have some fishing to do. Some of the Mesfelheim fire sharks were spotted around the mountain, so sit back, grab a fishing rod, and enjoy some feasting. But before she can finish, Robbie tells her, "No, I'm terrified of my car, of the monster inside of me, of being the Ghost Rider. I'm terrified every second of the damn day. I'm terrified of being an Avenger." Captain Marvel asks, "Do you want to know a little secret about being an Avenger, Robbie? It's all terrifying. All the time. It's part of your job. Of all the scary things in the cosmos you could have never imagined before, of how many different ways that our runt of a planet can explode at any given moment." And Robbie asks, "How does everyone live with this? How does everyone not go crazy?" She says that she gets to fly whenever she wants, however fast she wants, and when she's up there, it's all worth it. What about you? What does a kid street racer from East LA do? A few moments and a Ghost Rider transformation later, Robbie shouts, "I'm the Ghost Rider, on a boat. Call me Captain Vengeance, the Fire Pirate." Back at the Pentagon, Nighthawk steps out of Dr. Spectrum's portal. It doesn't matter what Black Panther wants, he's going to jail. And if he's smart, he won't resist. Black Panther asks, "Why do you all trust this man? What has he done to earn your trust?" And it's all right. I don't expect an answer, because there isn't one. I'm not sure who you are or how you got your powers, but you are not the Squadron Supreme. And Philip Coulson is not working in this country's best interests. Hyperion reaches out, telling him, "That's enough of your lies." And Black Panther begins to teleport away, telling them, "When you tire of asking questions that Coulson won't answer, remember, the Avengers are not your enemies. Unless you force us to be." A short while later, back at Avengers Mountain, Cap goes over the good old days when Robbie and Captain Marvel decide to join them. Rather than undressing, Robbie gets in his swim trunks and Captain Marvel in her bathing suit. And then a third voice tells everyone to move over. Everyone looks over to see She-Hulk taking off all of her clothes. And Captain Marvel quickly shields Robbie's eyes. As She-Hulk settles in, she says, "Hot tub not hot enough." Robbie transforms and Captain Marvel tells him, "Nice going." And while everyone else is relaxing, down below, over in Las Vegas, another player is planning his next move. While Mephisto is looking down at his chessboard of superheroes, he asks himself, "What should I do? How about this? Mephisto makes all the moves." The next day over in East LA, Robbie takes his little brother Gabe to school while Gabe is shouting, "Faster! Go faster, Robbie! You haven't gone fast in forever!" Robbie tells him, "Look, I'm sorry that I've been busy with this new job, but I'm starting to think that this new job isn't for me. I might be quitting, Gabe." As Gabe goes on, the engines flare up and a voice tells Robbie, "The engine runs on blood. Time to gas up." The car begins to speed up and a voice continues, "The streets are paved with scabs and their tires are made of butcher knives. The Hell Charger needs its feeding. Feast of blood-drenched speed." As the car goes even faster, Gabe is shouting, "Awesome!" And then a flaming chain straps him to his seat with Robbie yelling, "No!" The voice tells Robbie, "Riders don't get to quit. Don't get to go unhaunted. Don't get to stay dead like your parents. Riders have to watch the world burn through melting flesh, screaming scars, and unholy spirits through flaming eyes." Soon the Charger swerves into the schoolyard and Gabe shouts, "Again! That was awesome!" Robbie gets out of the car and starts to kick it, telling himself, "I'm gonna get Gabe killed!" And Gabe gets out asking, "What's wrong?" And Robbie tells him, "The car's just running weird. I'm gonna get it fixed, Gabe. Don't worry." As the sun goes down, Robbie drives out into the middle of nowhere and takes a sledgehammer to the Hell Charger. But of course, the very next day, the car is parked outside waiting for him, without so much as a scratch. Later, Robbie returns to Avengers Mountain telling everyone what happened, and says that a voice was talking to him laughing. No matter what, this has to end. Black Panther asks, "You do understand the risk involved in what you're asking here. You are bonded with this vehicle on a molecular level in a way that we don't fully understand." Robbie asks, "Are you asking if I know if this could kill me?" "Yeah, I know, because it already did." A short while later, Black Panther runs tests on Robbie and the Charger, telling him, "I summoned an expert in the field, but until he arrives, we're going to look at a few things. When you're ready, transform into the Ghost Rider and we'll attempt to measure the energy connection between you and the vehicle. So Robbie begins to transform and he tells him, I also had a weird dream about Johnny Blaze, that he was the king of... But before he could finish, Robbie bursts into flames and he screams out in pain. Black Panther shouts that the car was dormant, but its energy is spiking at staggering levels. Cap grabs a hold of Robbie, telling Black Panther to teleport the car into the sun, while Black Panther tells him, that could kill Robbie! The chains on the charger pull Robbie in, and Cap shouts, and this could also kill him! We have to get him away from this thing! Captain Marvel and Blade try to damage the car, but Blade says, I'm gonna need more than a Hellfire shotgun to stop this thing. And then fire shoots by, and the transformed Robbie tells them, we've already got ourselves a damned bazooka. It's me, and I'm gonna kill this hell charger, no matter what it. Then a voice stops everyone asking, oh, did you start without me, you damned fools? You're lucky you're not all vomiting blood and screaming at one another in Latin. A bald man with a red goatee walks in and Captain Marvel asks, who the hell is that guy? And Black Panther says, it's the expert that I summoned. Avengers, meet Damon Hellstrom, son of Satan. Cap asks, and what exactly is he an expert in? And Damon tells them, in devils and damnation, and all the wicked little beasts that squirm their way out of hell to nest inside of your weak mortal flesh like ravenous maggots. And exorcisms. What say we get one started right here and now? While Damon gets things started, Iron Man, Thor, and She-Hulk head to Turkey, where Okoye was requesting their aid. Iron Man looks at She-Hulk ripping apart a giant Milsvildheim grubworm and says that it can't be because of those, right? And Okoye tells him, no, we can handle those. The War of the Realms uncovered this cave. I've sent 3 workers inside to check for explosives, all veteran Wakandan vibranium miners. All used to work in the impenetrable darkness deep underground, and within moments, they emerged screaming. Even now, they cannot speak of what they saw without being reduced to fits of weeping and wailing. Iron Man shines a light in the cave asking, is that what we were called? To take a look inside? Because scans are showing nothing unusual. Thor stops everyone. Wait, there is a great evil here, great in most ancients. Okoye kneels down, opening a box, telling them, no, I myself have already explored it. I called Iron Man specifically because of what I discovered. Okoye pulls out an old fossilized Iron Man helmet and tells him, it dates back to 1 million BC, and it wasn't carved from stone, it's made of metal. Inside also appears to be the remains of a human skull. Thor looks at the helmet. This is unnatural, it reeks of evil. We should destroy it at once. Okoye tells him that he might be right. There is undoubtedly an unnatural presence in this place. So please, Stark, have you ever been inside of this cave before? Iron Man tells her no, but something tells him he's going to be. Meanwhile, back at the Avengers Mountain, Damian finishes his preparations, telling them all that it's time to begin. But before they do, he must ask Blade a favor. He is the only one that can be trusted. And Blade asks him, really? Because I don't trust you at all. Damon hands him a small gun, telling him that it is a breathing gun, one of the arc weapons of hell, absurdly more powerful than any paltry shotgun. If things get out of hand, if he cannot control the forces that he is about to unleash, or if hell helps them, he gets possessed himself, the gun will begin to hiss, and this will be his cue to use it. Shoot the rider, then me. Then empty whatever's left into the car and pray to all the devils that it's enough. Damon gets into position and tells everyone to let them pray. He then shouts to Robbie, calling out the unclean spirit in the name of Satan and Mephisto and the soul slavers of the pits, come forth! Robbie sits inside the car, gripping the wheel quietly, telling him that he has to do this for Gabe. No matter what happens, just know that he loves. And that's when the car ignites and Robbie screams out in pain. And as he blinks, he opens his eyes to find himself back on the hell freeway stuck in traffic. He gets out stating, "Aw, come on, not this place again." But a voice then asks, "What? Did you just think that you could throw away the spirit of vengeance? That ain't how it works, kid. But don't worry, I'll take it off your hands, the Ghost Rider way." Johnny Blaze pulls up and tells him, "We're gonna have ourselves a little Ghost Rider race." Back in the real world, Thor and She-Hulk teleport in, and Cap runs in telling them that their facility is under quarantine. No one goes any farther without proper protection. Thor asks, what devilry has happened? And Cap yells, devilry is right. We've got a code 666, exorcism gone wrong. Outside, Damon Hellstrom asks, does their Space Corps headquarters normally weep blood? And Cap tells him, definitely not. And Damon tells him, Splendid. Then it seems I have successfully prodded your infernal intruder. The being doesn't reek of any demon or nether spawn that I've ever encountered, though. And by the Hayden tribes, I have encountered them all. This being's power is staggeringly impressive and more than merely hellish in origin. But while fighting against their own base of operations, Johnny tells Robbie down in hell the story of the Ghost Riders. That how since the beginning of time there has always been a rider, just like there has always been sinners in need of riding down. The Ghost Riders love to dish out the penance, almost as much as they love a good race. Hell, the first rider challenge was in prehistoric times, and back then the spirit of vengeance rode on a flaming mammoth. Racing has always been in their blood, along with hellfire. Robbie sits atop of his car and Johnny asks, "Did you not get the part where I said that this was a race?" Robbie tells him, "Hell with that. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to be a Ghost Rider anymore. I'm trying to get rid of this damn curse when you pulled me down here." And Johnny tells him, "Yeah, that exorcism Hellstrom was trying, it's not gonna work. The spirit of vengeance won't let go of your soul that easily, not without exacting a terrible price." Robbie asks, "You want my power? Fine, I forfeit, Blaze." And Johnny bursts out laughing. "You are the worst, Ghost Rider. Look around. You know what this place is? It's hell, kingdom of the damned. Nobody likes their job. Hell, I have to keep control of hell. What would happen if I just lost control of it and let Mephisto take back the throne? Because that's exactly what will happen if I don't get your power. I have to get stronger to keep a lid on this kingdom." Robbie stops him, telling him, "You must have me mistaken for somebody who actually cares. All I want to know from you is..." But that's when the chains grab Robbie and Johnny tells him, "Look here, smartass! No more babying the new guy. Listen up, because the king of hell is talking. We're gonna race for your power, or I'm gonna take Gabe for a ride. One that ends with his sweet little soul all in flames. Now what do you say to that?" Robbie transformed, punching Johnny, telling him, "You've got yourself a race. And if you threaten Gabe again, it'll be the last damn race that you ever ride." Johnny gets up, fixing his jaw, laughing. "Congratulations, kid. You just made your first deal with the devil. Now, you're a Ghost Rider." Back at the Avengers Mountain, Damon calls out to everyone that he has the intruder cornered. He can see death, heaping mounds of bodies. Whoever he is, he may very well be the finest mass murderer in existence. But he's not of this time, not exactly. He was pulled into hell by King Blaze, and before that, he served the Holy Brimstone. He's not a demon at all. Oh, devil-damned hell. Inside of the facility, an explosion goes off and a flaming being walks through. And Thor says, "Smells like hell." She-Hulk gets up stating, "That not hell. Hulk, show you hell!" But as the unknown being makes himself known, down below in hell, Johnny is watching Robbie race through the great lake of fire, thinking that this kid is good, damn good. However, the boy should have known that nobody wins a race against the devil, not in the devil's own backyard. Now, just then the demons fire cannons with human parts, and Robbie shouts, "That's it! Guess there's no rules when it comes to a Ghost Rider race. Good. Because that means there's no reason for me to hold back." He pulls himself out onto the roof of his car, calling to Johnny, telling him that he's gonna drag him through the streets with his chains. Johnny rides up a ramp, telling Robbie that he really should be paying attention to where he's going. This just became a motocross race. And just know this, Robbie. It's not personal, just business. Surely Gabe will understand. Robbie crashes into a wall and he gets out asking, "The hell am I supposed to do?" But that's when the spirits of the past riders come out, telling him that he either races or he dies. Them's the rules. Fill those tires with his last breath if he's gotta. Grease the axle with his marrow. Open a vein until the gas tank's overflowing and there's blood gushing out of the blower. That's the Ghost Rider way, and that's the only way that he's gonna beat Blaze. Back up above, though, Thor charges into the being that has taken over the base with Mjolnir. "We will be rid of this demon soon enough." The being grabs Thor by the back of his neck, and Thor coughs, shouting, "Okay, fine, Thor won't kill it." The being then throws Thor into She-Hulk and says, "I just swung Thor like a hammer while he was holding his hammer. That's pretty much the same as lifting." Thor struggles, shouting, "Nay!" Damon says that this being was a herald of Galactus, a butcher for Thanos. He is a spirit of vengeance of the power cosmic, a cosmic Ghost Rider, if you will, and he's completely insane. The cosmic Ghost Rider steps out of the flames, telling him, "Okay, maybe Thor was right. There's nothing very worthy about me, is there?"
Name's Frank Castle, the guy who's here to murder the Avengers, and I won't lie, this is gonna get messy.
With the great threat revealed, Thor charges in with his hammer, shouting, "Have at thee, Hellspawn!" But Frank blasts Thor with the power cosmic, telling him,
The most annoying thing about time travel is having to kill the same loser all over again. It just gets old after a while.
as Thor flies to the wall, Frank asks,
Where am I anyway? Why do I want to murder the Avengers? Last thing I remember, I was in hell with that Blaze fella. Where did...
She-Hulk runs in, grabbing Frank by the skull, slamming him down onto the hander of Mjolnir, lodging him in place. Thor holds his hand out, telling him, gladly. The hammer rips Frank's head off, and Thor says, perhaps now he will feel more apt to explain himself. Frank opens his mouth, breathing hellfire on Thor, telling him, even as a skull, Frank Castle's more of a man than you. My headless body ain't too shabby either, huh? After beating She-Hulk down, Frank tells him, you know what, I've got a better idea. Something I haven't done in a while. Murder people with my own decapitated head. He bashes She-Hulk with his own flaming skull, and then he sets it back on his shoulder, telling her, now you need to explain why I'm here and why you're working for that bum Blaze. Thor and She-Hulk get back up, with Thor shouting, nay, we did not bring you here, though we are gladly going to send you back. It is time, my lady. She-Hulk places her hands on Thor's shoulder, transferring her gamma energy into him so that Thor may release his special gamma lightning. The green blast launches Frank across the Avengers mountain, and as he gets back up, he tells them, okay, now you done it. I was just gonna maim you, but what? That actually hurt. Now I'm going to burn you all into oblivion. Say hello to the power cosmic, Avengers! Just then, Captain Marvel flies at him, telling him, hello. But down in hell, Johnny rides his bike towards the finish line, thinking to himself that he feels bad that it had to end this way. But Robbie can't blame him. It was that Uncle Eli who... But suddenly the roar of the Hell Charger can be heard as Robbie ramps into the air, slamming down onto Johnny and his bike. He burns out as he speeds away, yelling, kiss my Hell Charger goodbye, Johnny! Crippled and broken, Johnny quietly says that he was doing him a favor. This is not a race that anyone wants to win. Guess it's time to bring out the big guns. Up ahead, Robbie races towards the finish line as the ground in front of him begins to crack and split open. A giant hand reaches out, pulling up the rest of the Celestial Callus the Void, blocking Robbie's path. And Robbie asks, really? It took all the Avengers to stop this guy the last time. But a gruff voice calls out to Robbie, telling him that ain't Callus anymore, Roberto. Imagine the power of a god at the hands of your friendly neighborhood serial killer. Robbie begins to drive around, realizing that the voice from Callus is actually his Uncle Eli. Up on the surface, Captain Marvel is focusing her photon blast at Frank, while Frank is using his other hand to put something together. Captain Marvel yells that she can do this all day. Screw the power cosmic, I had 2 bowls of cereal this morning. And Frank tells her, yeah, it's good to have goals and stuff. Hell, I had goals back before I got these crazy space powers. Back then when it was Frank and a gun. Using Iron Man's spare parts, Frank fires a makeshift repulsor, and Captain Marvel shouts, this is why Tony needs to always pick up his clothes. But before Frank has a chance to take off, Black Panther and Wakandan tech-powered up Cap charge in, punching and knocking Frank to the ground. In the back, Hellstrom watches, stating that these wretched Ghost Riders get even more annoying with every new iteration. But you, Blade, seem rather uninterested. Blade tells him all of this power cosmic space god mumbo jumbo isn't his kind of fight. Would rather they get back to the hellfire and possessed hot rods. Boy Thing reaches out trying to contain Frank, but Frank releases an inferno that burns off Boy Thing, and then he asks if he's really sending a houseplant after him now. You guys sure you're Avengers? Blade gets up telling Hellstrom that this just became his fight, and a single gunshot can be heard as his shot hits Frank's bike, throwing him off of it. Frank gets up asking Blade, did you really just shoot my bike? Pal, you must really want to die in the most ridiculously agonizing way ever. What the hell kind of gun is? Blade fires the breathing gun once again into Frank's shoulder, telling him, it's the kind of gun that puts holes in walking skeletons. Frank starts to laugh, telling everyone, you know what, I'm starting to like you all. Maybe you should have become my sidekicks instead of that scumbag Blazes. Thor asks, what manner of ignoramus would believe the Avengers are conspiring with the King of Hell? Frank pauses for a moment. Oh, okay, this is making sense. Going to just throw out a my bad on this one. Things may have gotten a little turned around. In my defense, I was out in space when I got pulled into hell by that Blaze jerk. Then there was something about a big race and yada yada yada. I just wanted to murder the dude a bunch and get the hell out of there. Then I was thrown in the back of some stupid car. Captain Marvel says that would be Robbie's car, but how could we all get into hell to help him? As everyone turns to Hellstrom, he says, don't look at me. You wanted an exorcist, not a tour guide. You guys are on your own. Frank tells him, nah, I can get you into hell. I'll join your team for now. But this isn't just some fight. This is a challenge of the Ghost Riders. If you want to join in, you're gonna have to build yourselves one very important thing. A sweet-ass ride. Back below, Eli tells Robbie that he turned his back on his family and that was a bad idea. And Robbie shouts that he's a dead psychopath. The one who wanted to turn him into a sadistic monster. The one who gave him these powers. Robbie then steps on the gas, driving off the ledge through Eli, telling him, "And I will never be like you! I will never be a Ghost Rider again." Eli begins to laugh, telling him, "You're even dumber than Blaze. You're one hell of a monster. The biggest, baddest monster on 4 wheels. But that'll never happen, will it?" Robbie stops, stepping out, asking, "You want to see a monster? Then come on. I'll show you a monster." Eli tells him, "Yeah, sure you are. And it ain't just you who sees it." But before Robbie can send in his attack, he stops, realizing who's watching. "Mom? Dad?" His parents look at him asking what happened to him, what has he become? And Robbie asks, "How? Why are you here? Are you really dead?" Robbie's father says, "Yes, we are." And Eli yells, "And soon you'll join them." Eli punches down on the Hellcharger as Johnny rides by, telling him, "Tough break, kid. But hey, don't worry too much. Once the race is over, you'll never have to be a Ghost Rider again, and you can join your family in hell." Eli swings again, but his fist crushes down on Robbie, and Robbie begins to push back the giant fist, telling him that everyone keeps telling him that he's the worst Ghost Rider, like it's supposed to be an insult. But what have Ghost Riders ever done except bring misery on themselves and everyone that they loved? They've all died alone or went crazy. Robbie's Hellfire chain lashes out, wrapping around Eli's massive arm, and then it cuts it off at the shoulder. Robbie then pulls on the chain, telling him, "I'm an Avenger, and I'll be damned if I lose this race." The chain whips, and Robbie uses the giant celestial arm to begin beating Eli with it. And Eli shouts that he's too late. "I don't even care anymore." And then a voice says that they can help him with that. Robbie looks up to see the Avengers riding into hell on a stark Wakandan-powered Asgardian boat. And Captain Marvel tells them that they have a race that needs winning. Now get in and point us towards the finish line. Up ahead, Johnny rides through, telling himself, "I'm doing the right thing. Nobody knows what it's like down here, what it takes to run this place." But as Johnny passes by, he sees the demons standing around and he shouts for them to kneel before their king. "Kneel before your god!" Blade then jumps down, slicing Johnny's bike in half, telling him, "You are not a god." Thor then charges in, knocking Johnny down, setting his hammer down on his chest. Johnny begins to sink into the ground, asking, "Is that the best you can do? Send me to hell!" And just then, as Thor looks down to the ground, something hits him in the back of the head. Johnny appears holding out his arm, stating that he was born a gearhead and a carny. Built his bike from junkyard scrap when he was 9. They think that he doesn't know a thing or two about swinging a hammer, or a hammer made from a Hellfire bike. As Thor and Johnny begin their battle, up above all of it, Captain Marvel tells Robbie that it looks like they just took the lead. This is the first part in Fast and the Furious where they hit the nitrous button. Hit it! She-Hulk channels her gamma energy into the engines and the ship suddenly rockets off. Johnny looks up yelling, "Yeah, they're getting away! Where is that useless Eli? He was given an entire dead celestial to possess!" Frank holds Eli's head up, telling him, "And he didn't like the penance stare too much. But hey, we weren't properly introduced, were we? Name's Frank! Okay, time for you to die horribly." Frank tells him that he really is a moron. The only thing that he's good at is getting his own family murdered. Anyway, enjoy the demons, got a race to win. But afterwards, I'll be happy to race you when this is all over. Up on the ship, the demons begin to climb aboard, and Captain Marvel says that she and She-Hulk will clear a path. "Take the wheel, Robbie!" Robbie looks around, stating that he doesn't need to take the wheel. This isn't just any race. It's the ancient challenge of the Ghost Riders, and there's only one thing that will win this: being like a Ghost Rider. He uses his power to take full control of the ship and rocket it even faster at the finish line. Johnny watches as Robbie passes, shouting, "No!" The ship crashes into the Hell Throne and Johnny yells, "What the hell did you just do?" Robbie jumps down, punching Johnny, telling him that he just won the stupid hell race by showing him that a Ghost Rider doesn't have to ride alone. Then maybe it's best when they don't, even in the darkest depths of hell. And you, Blaze, you seem like you could sure use a family right about now. Robbie holds out his hand, and as Johnny grabs it, he tells him, "That was a cute speech, but family won't save you when you sit on that throne. You aren't ready to rule hell." Robbie tells him good because he never will. He doesn't want the throne. Johnny pauses, telling him, "Are you abdicating the throne? You're leaving me down here without the power to rule? Maybe you do have Eli's cruelty." Just then Frank walks in shouting, "Where is he? Time to die, Blaze!" Johnny tells him, "Maybe, someday. But believe me, the worst thing you could ever do to me right now is just walk away." Arms begin to reach out from underground, grabbing for Johnny, but before Frank can stop them, Johnny's taken underground. After the race, Robbie says his goodbyes to his parents and he allows the Ghost Riders of old to watch over them. But still, there's another story elsewhere. In Turkey, Iron Man is continuing his scans in the cave that was dug out, the place where he found an ancient Iron Man helmet. With every scan, Iron Man gets the same thing. Nothing. He looks back at the helmet again, asking what is it hiding, and that's when the suit tells him that there's an unknown energy surge detected. The helmet lights up green and says Reg Mephisto. Iron Man documents his find, stating that it's been some months since this all happened. He's not sure if it was magic, a spell, or whatever, but right now, there's a super winter going on outside, and he's pretty sure that that won't keep the saber-tooth tigers from prowling around the cave. The prepared gauntlet died this morning, and the armor is useless. There's a blood moon tonight, and that means that he'll be coming around. Because he's Tony Stark, the smartest caveman in the world. The smartest man stranded in 1 million BCE. Out in the far reaches of the Ravenstar galaxy of Watchroyd Delta, Magister Gladiator receives a report that 13 star secs ago, a significant explosion incident occurred inside of the prison. Gladiator asks if the containment shields are still in place, and the operator tells him yes, their shields were built to withstand a Phoenix-level event. So Gladiator states that the prisoners built a bomb. They've built bombs before to blow each other into space gristle. Why would he care? Why is he here? The operator continues to report that they have been sent a dreadnought to investigate the explosion. They lost comms with them the moment that they reached ground zero. Soon after, a lone escape pod comes crashing into the gate with 2 crewmen aboard. Gladiator walks over to the holding cells, and as he looks at the 2 men, he notices star burns blistering across their forearms. Gladiator asks if the prisoners detonated one of the artificial suns in the prison, and the operator tells him no, all plasma reactors are still online. It is unknown what could have generated such high levels of radiation. What they are assuming is that the dreadnought is lost and that these 2 cavemen. Gladiator scans the men, stating that they are already dead. Their organs are decomposing as they speak. They died bravely serving the Imperium. But unfortunately, their remains were lost to the stars. Gladiator focuses his eye-beams, burning the bodies, stating that he wants to know the source of the explosion. And the operator then says, well, when the escape pod returned, we did discover a stowaway. Over in another holding cell, a badly injured broodling rustles in his chains, and the operator goes on stating that that prisoner is Zeta 987349 of Sleaze World. He ate the faces off 3 of their guards when he was found. The broodling shouts, "Pretty space birds will fire, big fire, Murder Star will brand you, unless Brood brand you first." The broodling spits on the Gladiator's chest and the acid hisses away, with Gladiator stating that by the power invested in him as the Supreme Magister of the Shi'ar Imperium, he hereby adjusts this prisoner's sentence. Broodling of Sleaze World, you are sentenced to death. Gladiator then spits back and the force of his saliva shoots through the head of the broodling. Gladiator then says to drop the last known coordinates of the dreadnought to his cortex. If he is not back in 17 starsecs, there is someone who needs to be called. Now, 6 days later in the Ravenstar galaxy, the Avengers find themselves trapped, suspended by magnetic snares. Captain America activates the recorder. Captain's log. 5 days since we entered the prison. We've been shipwrecked for 3 days, leaking oxygen, power almost depleted. There's not enough juice left to escape the magnetic webs that the prisoners set up to capture ships. The scavengers are growing in number, while our ranks keep dwindling. No word from Carol since she left yesterday to search another ship. And still no contact with the team members who were lost in space during the breach caused by Thor's initial episode. Talking to his hammer is the only thing that seems to keep him calm. Behind Cap, the broodling transformed Thor pets his hammer, stating, "Must hold hammer. Holding a hammer means still worthy. Still worthy. Still worthy. Still Thor. Thor not brood. Not want to kill. Not feed. Not infect. Not bite or tear or slaughter." Cap sighs. There's still no sign of Gladiator. No communications from Earth or the Shi'ar. Still no direct contact with the starbrand. We've only ever seen the effects of its rampage. Jen says that the radiation readings are beyond anything that she's ever seen, and with Jen, that's obviously stating a lot. Outside of the ship, She-Hulk fights off yet another wave of brood trying to rip their way into the ship when suddenly there's a message over the comms. Captain Marvel yells that she's here with their new ride, so everyone get ready to move. She found a junk ship a few systems away, emerging from a white hole. Pretty sure it once belonged to a group of space pirates calling themselves the Starjammers. Also, being that close to the white hole did trigger her old binary form. So, heads on fire, don't freak out. Cap responds telling her, good. Hopefully once we're out of here, we can figure out how to change Thor back to... At that moment, there's a loud boom, and Cap looks back. We have a problem. Thor struggles to lift Mjolnir, shouting, why hammer not move? Not Thor holding hammer, if not Thor, then... Cap slowly inches closer, telling Thor that he is not a brood. He is the god of thunder, the all-father of Asgard. He is stronger than this. Thor hisses, yes, Thor is strongest there is. Strongest brood in galaxy. Meanwhile, elsewhere in space, Robbie radios in asking if anyone can hear him. They're lost in space and being chased by... Wait, no one can hear? What do we do? Black Widow says that they need to keep going, get them away from those stars or Blade is going to die. Robbie asks, why is this happening? He thought Blade wasn't a vampire who got hurt by sunlight. And Blade groans, red suns are killing me. Go faster. Robbie yells that he's going as fast as he can, but somehow it's not fast enough to outrun someone on a surfboard. But days before this, it was not only the Silver Surfer who caught wind of the coming of Starbrand. Though they had their disagreements, Heralds Terrax and Firelord also joined in the Surfer's quest to stop the return from ever happening. And back in our current time, Cap finds himself in a corner as Brood Thor grows ever hungry for flesh. After one last knock across the cabin, Carol asks what's going on. Is he under attack? Cap sits up telling her that she might say that. Thor's out of control, and I'm afraid that this calls for extreme measures. Cap reaches for Mjolnir, and as Thor sees him going for it, he shouts, You tried to steal hammer! No one left hammer but Brood of Thunder! Cap tries to throw his shield to buy him some time, but Brood Thor knocks it away with his Uru arm and begins to open his maw. As Cap struggles to lift the hammer, he tells himself to think worthy thoughts. Baseball, apple pie, punching Nazis. And at that moment, with a thundering crack, Cap manages to lift Mjolnir and hit Brood Thor on the side of the head. After some time and waking up from being knocked out, Brood Thor sits up. Thor, head hurt. Why Thor feel like someone hit with hammer? Carol tells him it must be the Brood infection. He should, just try and take it easy. Cap tells him that they're going to get him the help that he needs, and Carol found them a new ship and a change of clothes, so they're about to move out. Brood Thor looks at Mjolnir and asks, who moved hammer? And Carol tells him that he did, because he's worthy. Remember? He's the mighty Thor. Thor grabs Mjolnir, stating, I am the mighty Thor. Outside, She-Hulk finishes clearing out some of the debris and the Force set out, and as they do, Terrax and Firelord are close behind. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Robbie continues to try and outrun the Silver Surfer, and Black Widow says that they need to do something. They can't outrun him forever. Robbie asks, isn't he supposed to be silver? He's looking a little dull. But boy thing, take the wheel. I'm from Los Angeles. I deal with surfers all the time. As Robbie phases out of his Hell Charger, he stops before Surfer and says, hey, you can call me the Ghost Rider. Mind telling me why you're trying to kill me and my friends? Pretty sure we haven't done anything. Surfer tells him that he has come to Ravenstar for the same reason as them, the Starbrand. Robbie says, yeah, everyone's really awfully scared of this new Starbrand fella that nobody's even seen yet. Do you want to know what happened to the last Starbrand that crossed me? He perished, even if it was an accident. Robbie throws his chains, but they pass through the Surfer, who tells him, I should inform you that I have recently become intangible. But unfortunately for you, that does not affect my ability to wield the power cosmic. The Surfer blasts Robbie away, focusing on catching up with the others, when suddenly the Surfer feels something pulling at his board. Robbie climbs up and throws the Surfer off, telling him, you're not the only one that can see souls. The soul of Norrin Rad has plenty, which means you can feel the burn of hellfire. But it's a short-lived victory as Surfer calls back his board, throwing Robbie back into the Hell Charger. Robbie says, just in case you were wondering, the Surfer dude is still back there. Surfer fires a concentrated beam into the car, sending it spiraling down towards a nearby planet, stating that he can see what they're trying to build, even if they're blind to it. But all of the primordial forces of their world will not save them from the cosmic justice of the Silver Surfer. A few moments later, in a planet-side crash, Black Widow asks if everyone's okay. And as Robbie sees some of the aliens walking towards the Hell Charger, he tells them, "No, we're not about to be." The aliens begin to knock on the car, telling everyone that they have until the Count of Farlek to come out. Widow says that she knows trained killers when she sees them. They're going to need a heavy hitter for this one. And Robbie sits up. "It's cool. I got this. Just give me a minute to catch my breath. Also, is it possible to get a concussion if you're just a skull?" Widow tells him sorry, but she's not talking to him. "Boy thing, can you hand me my luggage from the back?" Outside, the alien bangs on the car, yelling, "Fingo, Farlek! Okay, you missed your chance to die easy. We're coming in." Just then, the door blasts open and Widow tells him that there's no need. "You want a war? Well, I just happened to bring a war machine with me." Widow slams the head of one of the aliens down into the ground while another picks up a boulder, shouting, "We're the most wanted outlaws in 23 systems. We've got about 5,000 life sentences between the three of us." Widow snatches the boulder. "Thanks for informing me. It helps me determine how many bones I'm going to break, which in this case is all of them." As Widow slams the boulder down, another alien hits her from behind with a club, telling her, "It took 17 Imperial Guardsmen to drag me back into prison. I'm eating you for dinner, metal hide and all." Widow cuts through the club, stating, "You'd think with all the schooling the Guardsmen went through, they'd know the importance of a kneecap." As she shoots out the alien's knees, she tells them that she'll make them a deal. Tell her where they can find the starbrand, and she'll let him have the other knee. The alien laughs, telling her that he would give that information for free if he can just smell her burning guts stinking up the spaceways. You can find the starbrand by, but at that moment the alien is melted and the surfer flies down. "Avengers, you do not get to find the starbrand." Widow jumps up and rockets around asking, "Weren't you supposed to be one of the good guys? Why are you such a jerk now?" "I was the Herald of Galactus. There is nothing that you can call me that has not already been screamed at me in every language of existence." Widow releases her payload, but the bullets and missiles pass through, and Surfer hits her with a cosmic beam, telling her, "Your humanity betrays you. You would risk burning worlds, all to save one human life." Widow asks, "Human, are you saying that the starbrand is from Earth?" As the two fight back in the Hell Charger, Blade tries to ask Robbie if he's awake, and after getting no answer, he sighs. Looks like it's up to old Blade. Red sun poisoning and all." He reaches for his sword as Boy Thing begins to wrap himself around Blade, and Blade shouts, asking, "What are you doing, Boy Thing?" Back outside, Surfer stands over Widow, telling her that he does not wish her permanent harm. "I have tremendous respect and appreciation for your primitively heartfelt ways. But the starbrand's fate has been decided. For the good of the cosmos, this rebirth must not be allowed." Before he could attack, a Boy Thing-clad Blade stabs Surfer in the back, asking, "Who are you calling heartfelt?" Surfer recoils, asking, "What in the name of Galactus?" "Do you feel that sting? It's called fear, and whoever knows it, even shiny and tangible silver space surfers, burn to the touch of my little friend here." Widow asks if he's wearing a Man-Thing, and Blade tells her, "Don't ask. Boy Thing's idea." Blade then forms another sword for Widow, and as she takes it, Surfer takes his board and swings it, hitting both of them, stating that they would need to talk them into destruction. But never again will he stand by and watch worlds be destroyed. As Widow begins to go back in, she shouts, asking, "Where is the starbrand? Tell me so we can finish it." At that moment, there's a blinding light with the starbrand symbol from the next planet, and Surfer tells them, "It's not hard to find. Just follow the pangs of its birthing." Moments earlier, a few light years away, the other half of the Avengers begin to fight off Firelord and Terrax's assault. Cap throws his shield into Terrax's back, telling She-Hulk to be careful not to let him wreck the ship. Terrax fires a blast back at Cap, telling him that he's just going to kill them. The asteroid storm that he's controlling will handle the ship. But while Cap and She-Hulk try to hold Terrax off, Brood Thor is hit with another asteroid, and back on the ship, Cap tells them that they need to get back there. He's the only one who could save them. "You're the strongest brood there is, Thor." Brood Thor asks, "Thor is?" Cap tells him, "Yes, and it's time to feed." Mjolnir falls from Brood Thor's hand as he lets the hunger set in, and then he flies back out screaming, "Feed!" But through the fighting, they too see the light of the starbrand as it shines across the galaxy. And on the surface of that planet, Gladiator descends, telling the starbrand that he orders them to stand down. Stand down in the name of, but starbrand hits him with a blast of energy, shouting, "No, stay back!" Gladiator gets back up. "You better control your power before I control it for you." "I can't help it! I didn't ask for this! This power! came out of nowhere like a comet. We were in transport and
Gladiator blows away fire, telling him,
You are a prisoner in control of one of the most powerful weapons in the cosmos. This cannot be allowed! Starbrand, by the power vested in me by the Imperium, I am afraid I must sentence you to die. May the gods have mercy on your soul and that of your unborn child.
The pregnant Earth woman tells him,
No! Stay back! Stay the hell away from me! I will set the entire galaxy on fire!
Just as Gladiator gets ready to end this woman's life, something comes crashing down on top of him as Gladiator shakes it off. What in the name of Shara and Kathira? Brood Thor climbs out of the crater, lunging at him. While they begin their battle, Terrax tells the other heralds that he has found the star bomb, attempting to disable it now. But before he can swing his axe, Carol hits him with a blast and radios to everyone, I have eyes on Starbrand. This just got a whole lot more complicated than we imagined. Surfer calls out to the other heralds that the bearer of the brand is with child. We must discuss this. As Cap and the others get ready for the final showdown, he tells Surfer, I wasn't expecting much in the way of decency from your friends, but I can't believe I'm about to have to say this to you, Surfer. No one comes near the woman who is about to give birth. Her safety is my primary concern. Silver Surfer turns to Captain America. You're right, we must. Gladiator shouts over everyone, telling them, No! No! The host and the child are already dead. They died the moment the starbrand infected them, and we will all be dead if we do not finish this. Cap tells She-Hulk to make sure that no one gets near them, and as the woman begins her contractions, she releases even more energy into deep space. Through the fire, She-Hulk reaches out. We can help you control, relax, breathe. As the woman tries to take She-Hulk's finger, She-Hulk begins to absorb the energy into herself, giving Cap the space to lean in. He tells her, I've delivered babies in the past. My name is Steve, what's yours? She screams as she goes into labor, but even still, everyone is there fighting around her. The woman shouts for everyone to get back, and no matter what happens, her baby will go home. And after one final fiery explosion, Firelord asks if they see it now. Do you see the power that is at play here? Carol tells him she sees something else, and Steve stands up. It's a girl! He then asks She-Hulk, how's the mother? And Widow says that there's no pulse. Over the comms, Killstation Prime radios Gladiator stating that they have an Apocalypse-class dreadnought warping to his position. Negabombs are ready. Gladiator tells them to stand down. Send a medical frigate instead. He walks up and Cap tells him that that's close enough. And Gladiator says that they better get that thing out of Shi'ar's space. If it's what he thinks it is, then gods help you, for all the good it will do you. Next, the Silver Surfer walks up stating that the heralds have spoken and they would each like to bestow upon the child a gift. Terok says that he gives the gift of life by not killing the brat here and now. Firelord states that he has the gift of time for her to grow and prove herself. Just know, Firelord will be watching. And Surfer says that he gives the gift of the greatest force in all the heavens, hope, and may she use it well. Later, as they return to Earth, Carol says that hope is good. They seem to be on short supply of that right now. They still have no idea where Tony disappeared to. Black Panther says that he's afraid they have no idea, but there is hope for Thor at least. He's already healing from his brood infection. Cap asks, what about hope for her? Have you found any next of kin? Black Panther says that unfortunately there appears to be none, but regardless, they know that this child cannot be raised in Kansas. Does he understand what he brought to their planet? Cap tells him, yes, I brought a baby. An orphaned baby that needs our help. Black Panther tells him that this baby may very well be the most destructive force in the galaxy. So what happens when it cries? Outside the mystical city of Kunlun, Moon Knight sits in the snow praying. As he prays, the giant gates begin to open and Iron Fist walks out. You know I live in Manhattan, right? There are easier ways of getting my attention than coming out here. Or at least, I'm going to assume you're trying to get my attention since you tripped every one of the hidden security alarms as you climbed up here. If even half of what I heard about you is true, then I'm pretty sure that that happened because you wanted it to. You're a Moon Knight, right? Moon Knight looks up. You're the fist of Konshu, and this can only go one way. Iron Fist laughs. Okay, sure. Luke isn't big on texting either, so here I am, a couple of fists. What's up? Need some help punching the bad guys? Moon Knight begins to get up. You misunderstand. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the Iron Fist.
As Iron Fist dodges a punch, he looks at Moon Knight. Hey, that's enough! What the hell is this about? Moon Knight tells him, I seek the Iron Fist! And Iron Fist grabs him by the throat. You're gonna get it all right unless you stop and talk to me like a... And Moon Knight responds by punching him in the face. Iron Fist begins to beat Moon Knight into the snow, telling him, look, I know you have a history of mental illness. If this is some kind of multiple personality episode, we can get you help. Moon Knight gets up punching Iron Fist. People will say that this happened because I'm crazy. That's how they think I am. The Manic in White, super schizophrenic. And as Moon Knight begins to lead the fight, he tells Iron Fist, but no, I'm not off my meds. I'm not delusional. I'm under the control of no one but myself. And this transformation begins here today. This is the sane thing to dodge. As Moon Knight takes the Ankh from his neck, he begins to absorb the power of the Iron Fist into it. And all Iron Fist can do is scream until his energy is ripped out of him. Later, in Greenwich Village, home of Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange fights back a horde of mummies, stating that even for them, this is idiotic. And a voice tells him that they're the living dead. They're already doomed, just as he is. Strange looks back. Wait, I know that voice. Spectre? Consorting with moon wizards? Surely you've not lost your mind to that demented lunar overlord again. Just then, Doctor Strange is punched in the forehead and he asks, did you just hit me with a piece of the Iron Fist? Oh, Mark, what have you done? Moon Knight holds up another Ankh. Something that I should have done a while ago. Tonight's the biggest supermoon in a million years, and if it's any constellation, you never stood a chance, Strange! And after that, over in Hill Rock Heights, Robbie Reyes wakes up feeling rather ill, like his insides are burning up. His brother Gabe asks if everything's okay, and Robbie tells him, yeah, sure, I just needed some air. Robbie stumbles as he feels his body getting weaker, and as he opens the door, he discovers his car gone. Who would steal the Hell Charger? Moon Knight, that's who. The next stop is Wakanda, and as Black Panther steps out to greet the army of Konshu followers, Moon Knight tells him, this doesn't have to be a war. We can settle this, just you and me. Black Panther asks, once I fall, I assume your army will simply shulk back into the moonlit shadows whence it came? Moon Knight holds out his nunchucks. No, 'cause I won't fail. Black Panther stands there for a moment and then tells him, you've convinced me. I surrender. Leave Wakanda be and I'll come peacefully. Moon Knight reaches for another Ankh. It won't be peaceful. I'm sorry for... Wait, why isn't? Black Panther leans forward telling him, my power is in my blood. If you want it, you're going to have to take all of me. So let us go! Fist of Konshu! Take me to your god. Later on the moon, Thor tells Cap that he is on his way with all the speed and fury of the storm, but as he passes by, he stops when he sees Moon Knight. Wait, is that? Foul villain, gods you are bold. This will be finished shortly, most thunderously. Thor winds up his hammer, telling Moon Knight to stand down or the moon will be drenched in his blood. And as Moon Knight stands there, Thor releases Mjolnir, telling him, I had hoped that you would say nothing. Have at thee, madman! The hammer comes rocketing towards Moon Knight, but he holds out his hand, stopping it. For someone who's wielded this for 100 years, you still don't know what it is. All you know is that it's made of unbreakable Uru. But what is Uru? Uru is all that's left of the first orb of the night. In other words, Thor, your hammer is made of moon rock. Moon Knight begins to spin Mjolnir in a circle, repeatedly smacking Thor in the head, while he shouts, I don't need a hammer to bludgeon you! The hammer then slams into Thor's chest, launching him upward until he suddenly crashes into the moon. But this moon is one of many, all used to crush together, making a prison of rock to encase Thor. And as the last moon sets itself, Moon Knight hears a voice telling him that it may not be enough. Moon Knight says that the panther cannot be broken, the phoenix remains untethered, and the starbrand is being hidden from them. It will have to be enough. Konshu tells him very well. Now the real work can begin. Well done, Konshu approves. Now we can save the world, Moon Knight. However, this story began weeks ago in Egypt, in a secret temple beneath the ancient ruins of the Thanban necropolis. Moon Knight fought his way through Konshu's followers, yelling that he can smell the moon magic from an ocean away. Show yourself! One of the priests tells him that there have been visions of a legion of super satans. The Council of Red is coming. Moon Knight knocks the man out, telling him that he is his own man now. Where is Konshu hiding? As Moon Knight storms the inner chambers, he can hear Konshu screaming, and in the corner of the room, Konshu hides, yelling, "Earth's eating Earths! Moons of melting flesh! The stars won't stop screaming! Make it go away!" Over the years, Moon Knight has seen many things in the eyes of the being of whom he is bound to. Rage, hatred, cruelty, but never stark, raving terror. Konshu begs Moon Knight to kill him before he comes, Mephisto. With the collected powers that he has, Moon Knight went to Las Vegas, up to the highest floor of the Hotel Inferno, where Mephisto sits in his magically sealed cell, laughing while he eats. He tells Moon Knight that he was planning on finishing the steak. He likes them fresh, before the soul has congealed. Would he and his quivering chicken god care to join? Using Doctor Strange magic, Moon Knight undoes the spell that was placed on the Hellfire bars, telling him, "Your sentence has been modified." Mephisto gets up. "I'd hope you were going to say that I was going back to hell." "No, you're never going to see hell again, Mephisto." Mephisto opens up his mouth, breathing fire, asking, "Do you think me weak because I sat behind those bars?" Moon Knight tells him, "No, I know that you're not weak. I know the unimaginable slaughter you're planning, and I know how to stop it." Mephisto laughs. "Really? And how would you do that?" Just then a large object shoots through Mephisto's chest, and the bloody Mjolnir floats back, and Moon Knight tells him, "Like that. We're going to burn your flesh to ash with the Ghost Rider's hellfire, then pulverize that ash with the Iron Fist, and then lace whatever molecules remain with the fiercest enchantment of Sorcerer Supreme. And that will be an end to Mephisto." Konshu creeps out of the shadows. "We both know that it won't. This won't end you, not this version of you at least. There are already others at play here, going back millions of years too." And Moon Knight yells, "I betrayed my friends! I struck down good men and stole what was rightfully theirs! What more could you have had me do?" Konshu calls on Mjolnir. "Nothing. I will do it." 2 weeks later, in New Thebes City, formerly known as the Island of Manhattan, Konshu begins to solidify her place of power, to fortify the Earth against the enemy that they knew was coming. It was always night, the sky filled with moons and sometimes muffled thunder. Welcome to the age of Konshu. Welcome to the world that Moon Knight has wrought. Inside one of the newly constructed pyramids, Black Panther sits up on his knees, and the Moon Priestess tell him that that is not bowing. He is praying. Black Panther tells him, "Yes, I am praying. Praying that Konshu would have the dignity to face me instead of hiding behind his acolytes." One of the priests yells to release the primordial power or they will beat him again. Their god requires the spirit of the Panther. How much more blood must be spilt before he gives in? And Black Panther looks up, telling them, "All of it!" And so the priests get ready to whip him as Moon Knight tells them to stop, leave them at once. The priests say yes, and once they leave, Moon Knight says that they will kill him if he doesn't give it to them. Black Panther begins to stand in his chains, telling him, "I've known that you've had brushes with insanity over the years, but I've never known you to be an outright fool, Mark Spector." Moon Knight punches him, asking, "Does that feel like the fist of a fool?" And Black Panther tells him, "Any imbecile can make a fist. What happened to the once wise man who knew when to wield it?" Moon Knight pulls up his mask, shouting, "Look at me! Look into my eyes! What do you see?" Black Panther tells him that he sees horrors. He sees cosmic horrors untold. And Moon Knight pulls his mask down, telling him, "They are the work of Mephisto, or at least they wouldn't have been. That's why he's dead." Black Panther asks, "And what is Konshu's plan? To rule the throne? Bring about the devil's own fascist hell on Earth?" Moon Knight fixes his hood. "This isn't hell. This is salvation. This is the only chance that we've got from hell. There's still so much more that needs to be done. Join us. Combine your powers with ours. Or should I call back the priests?" Black Panther asks, "Why? Afraid to swing the whip yourself? No. You just want to use a magic ankh." Moon Knight stares for a moment and begins to take off the ankh, but one of the priests run in, telling him that they just received word from the Necro Patrols. The fugitives have been sighted. Moon Knight scoffs. "Perhaps your missing friend Captain America wanted to make a nuisance of himself." Black Panther tells him, "Spectre, listen. Even if you're right about Mephisto ruling the world, this isn't the way to save the world. You have to see that this is about Konshu's lust for power. Call him here. Let us look him in the eyes together and see the truth." Moon Knight turns back. I am not blind to what I have done, but all the roads lead to burned worlds and slaughter of trillions. My faith in Konshu is far from blind. I haven't given him all the powers. As Moon Knight leaves, the priests return asking how many will it take, how many before he gives them, and Black Panther stands up breaking his chains. 50! Bring me 50 priests, and I'll have every one of you calling for God. Meanwhile, over in the Sahara Desert, there's a rumble in a small encampment as Iron Man and Carol Danvers get set up, and Iron Man says to get ready to fly. As the mummies begin to crawl out of the grave, Carol tells Iron Man that it's his turn to take her and go. Iron Man yells no, they're not tearing this family apart, and Carol shouts that for the last time they're not family. The starbrand child picks her nose, and Iron Man whispers, "It's okay, don't listen to them. Mommy and Daddy love each other very much." Back in the city, Blade radios that he has eyes on the moon train, and She-Hulk asks how does he know that their targets are on board. Blade tells her because of his vamp senses, he can smell them. And she tells him, "I gotcha. So you got that Wolverine kind of nose, huh?" Cap tells them to focus up. This is guerrilla warfare. Timing is everything. Jen, are you in position? She-Hulk stands on the tracks of the train, telling him, "Yeah, just give me a sec." Think angry thoughts, politics, student loans, the Knicks. As she hulks out, she punches the train to stop it, and Cap and Blade break into the passenger car yelling that if anyone wishes to get off the train, this is their stop. All of the followers and mummies jump from their seats, and Blade says, "Looks like they'd rather die for their god." And Cap tells him, "These things bleed, so mortal wounds only." She-Hulk then rips open a way in, releasing her gamma radiation, and the three begin to move from car to car. And once they get to the last car, the followers stop attacking. Cap tells them smart move, but Blade says that that's them in the back, the sarcophagi. As they open up the first two sarcophaguses, they find Iron Fist and Doctor Strange, and then finally Robbie Reyes. Cap says that they can get them over to see Dr. Foster. Are there any signs of Thor? Just then Robbie sits up. Thor isn't here. Buried in the sky. And they're not done. I can feel it. They're hunting. Cap helps him up, telling him it's okay. They're going to get them out of here. You're weak and delirious, Robbie. But while Cap and the others get off the train, over in the Sahara Desert, Iron Man blasts through a mummy. This is so wrong! Carol takes out her group, telling him that she knows. From what she heard, Moon Knight's always been a bit odd, but she doesn't understand why he turned on everyone. Iron Man asks, "Wait, what? No, Moon Knight? Never trust a guy who wears that much white." But that's not what I'm talking about. We really should not have a baby strapped to our chest like this, let alone a baby super weapon. What are we, the X-Men now? Isn't this the sort of thing that we went to war with them about? Carol says that he was the one who kept calling it a family, and Iron Man yells, "I was saying that to be annoying because I was stressed the hell out. I'm so damn good at being annoying that you saying it back to me in my own words is making me even more annoyed, Carol." Carol looks at the starbrand child. "We have a job, a very important one. This child is one of the most powerful weapons in the cosmos, one that we know barely anything about. All we know is that it's bound to this little girl, and because of your trip to the past, we also know that the starbrand's legacy goes back 1,000,000 years. But what happened back there? You came back from the Stone Age with a 1,000-yard stare like I've never seen before." Iron Man asks, "Do you know why I'm so good at imagining the future? Because I'm scared to death of the past. I shouldn't be anywhere near a baby, especially one that can grow up to destroy the world if it isn't raised right. So why does it suddenly feel like the most important job of my entire life? Is this what it's like to be a parent? God, no more. It isn't right, Carol. It isn't right that she doesn't have a name. I knew her mother died before giving her one, but we just can't keep calling her the Starbrand baby. What about Brandy? Brandy Star? Carol, help me out over here." But when the Iron Man looks over, he sees Carol is wrapped up in the Hellfire chains, being dragged into the back of the Hellcharger. Moon Knight looks over. "Iron Man, hand over the baby. It's the only way that this ends." Iron Man charges up his repulsor blaster. "You just stuffed my friend into a trunk that's a portal to hell, which would make you even less qualified to have this kid than us. Hell? Hell is all that's left if we don't finish what I started. If you let Mephisto win." Iron Man powers down his blasters and calmly walks up. "What did you say?" Just then, Carol punches open the trunk, ripping through the tentacles holding her back, and then she flies through, grabbing Tony, retreating. However, Moon Knight doesn't chase right away. What he saw in Iron Man's eyes, he was about to hand the baby over. He has seen it too. Of course he has. He plays a bigger part in this than anyone. He knows the truth, that nobody beats the devil by being a goddamned angel. Back in Konshu's temple, Konshu kills another Mephisto, stating that if the plan is that he gets tired of killing him over and over, then he hates to say it's working. Gah, I need more power. I need the starbrand, the phoenix, the panther. It's the only way to. But at that moment, Konshu throws another Mephisto into the mound of Mephistos, and Black Panther calls out. He demands that Konshu look into his eyes. He promises that today, one of them will break, and it will not be the Black Panther. However, earlier, Moon Knight didn't head straight to the Sahara Desert. Before meeting up with Iron Man and Carol, he made a stop at the moon in search of the starbrand. He kept asking himself over and over, what is he doing? Can he really save the planet from the devil? The devil that has already been murdered with a magical hammer. He asks this question, but his god doesn't seem to be listening. So he closes his eyes once more and asks the darkness. The blood-red answers come roaring back to him, flecked with fire. A voice that tells him that he is praying to the wrong god. Moon Knight grabs his moon blades, asking, "Who the hell is there?" And the voice tells him that he is praying to the wrong god, the wrong light in the sky. Moon Knight asks, "Who said I was praying?" The shrouded figure says they did. They can see them like moths in the moonlight. And they can see the hot winds of horror that drive them. He's right to be afraid of the devil spinning bloody webs between the years, between the worlds and the realities. He's right about the key to stopping them, the great weapons from the dawn of man, just like the one that he has right there. Moon Knight asks who sent them. "Are you one of Black Panther's?" The man says that they've always been here and nowhere else. The unbreakable cosmic chains see to that. He is of no one and nothing, not anymore. As Moon Knight takes a closer look, he tells him, "I know who you are." The man asks, "Do you? Or do you only see what Konshu wants? You can't be here because I saw you die right here on the moon when Nick Fury's sins finally blew him all to hell." The man says yes. The Howling Commando called Nicholas J. Fury is long past, but the silent watcher known as the Unseen lives on. If they can call being forced to watch the events of the world unfold without being able to intervene in any meaningful way a form of living, well then this is his unending curse. But that curse is their benefit this day, for he too has seen the work of the Council of Red. Their plans burrowing through space and time like starving maggots. He can show them their prayer for salvation, but he must warn them. It won't be to the moons of fire or the stars of blood. To save Earth, he must pray to the thing that eats those. Now back with Black Panther, he tells Konshu to lay down his weapons. Do not make him force an elder god to his knees. Konshu tells him, "It is no god that you should be worried about. The true enemy is behind you, coming in waves from across the dimensions. How do you propose that we stop Mephisto, almighty king of the Avengers?" Black Panther steps forward, telling him, "Not by subjugating the world, or stealing the powers that were never meant for you to wield. All you've done is weaken our defenses. You're doing the devil's work for him." Konshu yells that he is lying, and he hurls Mjolnir, but as the hammer gets closer, it stops, redirecting itself to avoid Black Panther. As the hammer begins to float around Black Panther, he tells it, "Hello, old friend." Konshu is confused, but Black Panther explains that this hammer knows his tribe, knows them well. The blood of the Panther King flows through his veins, and he can assure them they have all been fighting Mephisto for a very long time. They may have power over Uru, but not the spirit of the storm that dwells inside, much like those ankhs that you wear. The great powers of this planet will not be tamed by you, but perhaps they would like to be released by the hand of an ally. As the ankhs are pulled from Konshu's neck, Moon Knight steps out of the Hell Charger, telling him, "You're right. The Hellfire hears your call, which is why we won't use it to kill you. We'll do it with what I have, a fist." Black Panther calls out to Moon Knight not to do this. Don't defend Konshu. But as Konshu scrambles for the Hellfire Ankh, he mutters to himself that thanks to the magic of Sorcerer Supreme, his fist sees himself battling Mephisto. With any luck, he'll kill the Panther, for they still need Wakandan blood. But until the Panther is dead, he must get these powers out of his reach and use them to arm himself with the last great piece. Black Panther punches Moon Knight, telling him that he is not Mephisto, but Moon Knight says, "I know exactly who you are." Moon Knight jumps up, kneeing Black Panther, telling him, "Maybe you don't know who the hell you are. Maybe you don't know who the hell I am. I cut the faces off of devils and I pound them into asphalt until they're nothing but gooey puddles. And you, Mephisto, you're just another devil for me to Black Panther punches Moon Knight again, telling him, so be it. To save the world, your devil I shall be. Black Panther continues to strike Moon Knight over and over, punching and kicking, headbutting and knocking down, until finally he asks, is that enough? Enough for you to see that your god has blinded you? Moon Knight pulls up his mask to spit out blood. I knew it was you. I stopped thinking that you were Mephisto a few dozen punches ago. Moon Knight swings again, but his hits do nothing as Black Panther hits him one last time. Up in space, Iron Man and Carol fly, and Iron Man says that the kids' vitals are normal, or at least as normal as they can get. Looks like their starbrand handles space like a pro. Carol tells him that there's an old Alpha Flight safe house near the Martian ice caps. They'll hole up there for the time being. But after this, they're going to have a serious conversation about whatever the hell happened to him when he traveled to the Stone Age. And by serious, she means she's going to beat it out of him if she has to. Iron Man tells her that he's the smartest human either one of them has ever met. So believe him when he says that this is all far from over. At that moment, Iron Man is bound in the Hellfire chains and Konshu pulls him, telling him, hand over the child and I will allow you one final prayer. Iron Man yells for Carol to get away, but as she tries, she says that she can't. The child is pulling her towards them. Back down on Earth, Black Panther knocks Moon Knight down, telling him to stay down. I don't have time to kill you. I've got to figure out how to stop your demented god from murdering a child. Moon Knight reaches up for Black Panther's leg, telling him, no, finish it. Have to finish the prayer. Black Panther kicks his leg out of the hold, telling him, if you wish to die for your sins, my fist shall not serve as your means of suicide. And Moon Knight tells him, not die. It wants me to bleed. If you won't do it, I know someone who will. And then he punches himself. At the moment, everyone then sees the lighting up in the night sky, and from those in space all the way to those down on Earth, it's headed straight for Moon Knight. As the fire consumes Moon Knight, he flies up. My name is Mark Spector, the Fist of the Phoenix. And from here on out, I don't pray to anyone except myself. Meanwhile, up in space, Carol tries to hold back the starbrand child while Iron Man and Konshu fight. But off in the distance, a fiery red blaze comes racing up and a voice shouts, Konshu! You wanna face the devil? Moon Knight punches Konshu away, stating, well then I'm gonna send you right to hell. Iron Man tells him, come on, you gotta be kidding. Not this too. But Moon Knight tells him, I'm not here to fight the Avengers. Not anymore. He looks over at Carol, telling her to take the Star Child away. He means her no harm, but he senses that she does not feel the same. Iron Man begins to prime all of his weapons. All right, drop the Phoenix mark and back away, or get ready to learn what a few $1 million worth of Armageddon tastes like. Moon Knight releases a powerful burst of energy, knocking everyone away, yelling, I told you to go! Down on Earth, Konshu comes crashing down through his temple, and his followers come running up, yelling that the Avengers have come for them. Konshu gets up. Moon Knight has betrayed us. Don't any of you see? I'm trying to save the world! This is the work of Mephisto! Unleash everything, the full power of the Night Temple, every last disciple of Konshu, mummies and moon priests and werewolf guard. We will scrape this world as barren as the moon if we must, and start again. Black Panther gets to work fighting through Konshu's forces when suddenly the Hell Charger comes bursting in, narrowly missing him. Konshu yells, I am the one true god of vengeance. I am the one who lives in hearts. Konshu was born to wield the fury of the Ghost Rider. And as the moons are my witness, I will unleash the spirit of vengeance upon the earth as never before. But as Konshu reaches for the door handle of the car bites him, and he pulls back. What is this? Robbie fumbles out of an ambulance, stating, yeah, about that power. Hurts like hell, don't it? But it turns out it hurts even more when it's ripped out of you. So I'll be taking my hell-damned ride back. Black Panther tells him, we will all be taking it back, every primordial power that you have stolen. Iron Fist of Kunlun, hear the call of a soul allied of old. Mystic arts of the Sorcerer Supreme, hear the call of a soul allied of old. And as Black Panther holds out his hands and speaks those words, the Ankh begins to pull away from Konshu, and Robbie holds out his hand, calling to the Ghost Rider. While the Ankhs are stripped away from Konshu, taking away all of his extra powers, Cap and the others come stumbling in, and She-Hulk flings mummies off, yelling, ah! Too many mummies! Black Panther says that their god has fallen, but Konshu's forces will fight into the last moonbeam to regain what he has lost. Cap asks, what does that even mean? How are we supposed to stop them? And Black Panther holds out the Iron Fist, and Sorcerer Supreme Ank's telling him, with these, guard and use them, as Earth's mightiest heroes should. But while the Avengers on Earth take down the weakened army of Konshu up in space, Moon Knight finds himself at an impasse. As he looks down on the Earth, all he can hear is the burning inside of his head, and the great cosmic inferno exploding inside of him. What if he were to let the Phoenix out? What if he purged the Earth from above like a great moon of fire? What if he destroyed the deformed parasite that is the human civilization? And from the ashes that remain, something new would grow. He would be the hero, the one who saved the world by setting it ablaze. Make the entire world into the burnt place, screams the voice of the flame from a great white room. And Mark Spector considers it. God help him, he considers genocide. That is when the Moon Knight truly realizes for the first time he has truly lost his mind. He needed this power to help defeat his god, but he is not the Phoenix. This is not the saga of Dark Moon Knight. And while Moon Knight fights back the overwhelming urge to bring ruin to the world, Mjolnir flies in search of its master, and when it finds him, with a thunderous crack-a-coom, Thor stands in the shattered pieces of the moon, violently spinning his hammer, yelling, "Knight of the Moons, you have disrespected the hammer of the All-Father Thor, and now my mallet of Moon Rock shall disrespect thy face!" Moon Knight watches as Thor charges at him, thinking, I suppose I deserve this. Back on Earth, the sun begins to shine, and as Konshu lays chained to the Hellcharger, he asks, "What have you done? A devil for each of you, a devil for every world. What hope do you have?" Black Panther tells him that he failed, because they are the people of Earth who hold gods accountable. He is hereby under arrest in the name of the Earth and its Avengers. Elsewhere, Moon Knight lays broken in a crater, because he is just a man again, a man without a god, and with very many broken bones. But still a man with visions of coming horrors roaring through his head. The threat of Mephisto lingers. The age of Konshu couldn't stop it, but maybe the Phoenix can. Meanwhile, back on the moon, in the summer house, a voice tells Jean Grey that she felt it too, right? Like a dumpster fire inside their bones? Jean says that it's not here for her this time. It's come in search of someone new. There will be a calling for the new Phoenix. The voice says sure, and then it chews them up and spits them out, the same as it did with Hope, the same as it did with Jean Grey, unless they get there first. And Jean tells the figure that it's not for her to go. If they should, what reason do they believe that they could even stop the Phoenix Force? The figure says, "Reasons? Oh, I got reasons, darling. I've got 6 of them right here made out of adamantium." 1 million years ago, there was a baby with fiery red hair let into the burnt place. A place where those different were discarded, left for the vultures to be feasted upon. Though it started as just another day in the burnt place, it ended when a pack of wolves intervened, fending off the vultures. The wolves came to feast, but what they found in that baby was not food, but a life worth protecting. The little girl, she had no name. She was just another in the pack, but over the next 10 years, she would learn to live. The little girl often wondered why the wolves saved her. She was clearly different from them, but the wolves wrapped their secrets up deep and tight, which was one of the many reasons the little girl loved them so. Just like many other days, a baby was left for the vultures in the burnt place, but this time it wasn't the wolves who stopped the vultures, it was the little girl. She knew what it was like to be thrown away by a tribe that didn't want you, all because she was different, just like this baby. But a voice rang out in her mind telling her not to hurt the baby. A sickly, floating man floated closer, telling her that he would take the child. But the little girl had never heard those words before, so she ran. She watched from afar as the man took the child with him, and when she snuck into the cave, the man told her that she was the one that the wolves took in. But fear not, this cave is safe, and he must apologize for talking to her through her mind, but it is the only way that he can speak. He is sorry for not helping her back then. He was watching when she was brought to the burnt place as a baby. He was too afraid to move. But after she was taken in by the wolves, he vowed to never stand by again and watch one die. He thought the wolves had eaten her, but here she is, back from the dead. So the girl with the hair like fire, would you like to come home now? The little girl knew she had to go, And for the first time, she found herself where she belonged, a part of the tribe without fear. It was a tribe of others like her, different, some more than others. Over time, that little girl was given a name, Firehair, and the man was called the High Walker. Were it not for him, she would have gone mad that day, the day that Firehair found out just how different she really was. She spoke for the first time ever, and through her mind, she told High Walker, they're coming. It wasn't just them who had overcome their fear, but so did the other tribes, fearful of what being different meant. Firehair could feel their range, but High Walker told her and the others to go deeper into the cave and not come out until he calls them. High Walker would have torn their primitive brains to shreds. He could have smashed their bodies to pulp or compelled them to do it to each other, but that wasn't who the High Walker was. He didn't want to hurt them. He wanted them to see the truth of their own ignorant eyes, and maybe they could have, if it wasn't for Firehair. Firehair began to use her newfound powers to attack, and High Walker told her not to hurt them. They can't give in to their fear and hatred. She has to control her. It was at that moment that High Walker was distracted, and a spear impaled him. After that, it was a bloodbath. Bodies on both sides scattered about the cave, dead. Firehair stumbled through the carnage, wondering to herself that if it was possible to kill yourself with your own mind, and realized that the High Walker had been wrong about her. Nothing comes back from the dead, not really. Not for long, at least. The buzzers would get their meal, the one that they should have had all along. And as Firehair lays back in that burnt place, she surrenders her flesh to a feathered death. And that is when she suddenly asks herself for the very first time, how did the burnt place come to be? Was it that it had burned the ground so long ago, burned it in such a way that nothing had ever grown here again? And what would happen if it ever came back? What was it that burned this spot so long ago, burned it in such a way that nothing had ever grown here afterwards? And what would happen if that thing ever came back? The Phoenix has burned its mark into her world years ago, into many worlds, like a lure. Her raw mutant power drew it to her, along with her potential for the bloody ruin around her. It saw her as a chance to do what she was born to do, to burn planets to ash. She would have made it feel justified in doing so, her loss, her hunger for vengeance, the cruelty of the world that she was born into. But the angry little girl stopped as she felt the warm licks of the wolves who took her in. And for many years up in Asgard, Odin finds himself not strong enough to wield the mighty Mjolnir when there's an explosion. The little girl, now grown up, tells Odin that he may call her the Phoenix, and she is putting together a team to save the world from itself, from people like themselves. You in? Now we go to the modern day, our story of the origins of the Phoenix having been concluded. As Captain America punches into a tree, he thinks to himself that Black Panther would be quietly meditating. Thor would be guzzling meat and booming with laughter, and Tony would be going on about his meticulous battle plans, but him? He gets his knuckles warmed up and thinks about the times that he had his tail kicked. Back in the days before the shield. He was in a whole bunch of fights before he ever won a single one. Those are the fights that he remembers, especially in moments like this, right before the bell rings. The moment he gets careless, or cocky, or forgets those, are the day that Captain America dies for good. As Dr. Doom flies in with a fiery punch, he hits into the shield, telling Cap, "Give this round to Doom." And Cap tells himself that it's important to always remember how it feels to be the weaker man, to never take his power for granted. A lesson that Doom never bothered to learn. Fueled with the Phoenix Force, Doom calls out the Phoenix, telling her, "This bit of her fire has served me. Doom does not do appetizers. Give me the full power and be done with this farce of a tournament. You will find no worthier master upon this earth. Give yourself wholly to Doom, Phoenix. Together we will burn this paltry cosmos as never." And then a fiery shield strikes Doom in the head as Captain catches it, telling him, "Nobody's burning except for you." From the ground, a Phoenix Force-enhanced Captain America stands, and he asks himself, what will I become other than the Phoenix? You see, earlier, the Avengers gathered to try and make sense of what the nesting of the Phoenix meant, but as Black Panther uses the dead Celestial to try and make contact, he is stopped by Namor. Namor yells that no one needs to wonder why the Phoenix is here. It is here because he called upon her. She answered from across the black sea of space, and once they are reunited, the depths of the ocean will be the only place on this ungrateful planet that isn't in flames. Defenders of the Deep, keep the Avengers at bay while Namor goes to marry his fiery queen. But while everyone was confused at what was then happening, Wolverine stands in Namor's way, cutting into him, telling him, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to crash that wedding." Back in our current time, in the battle, Cap is using his new Phoenix powers to beat down on Doom, but he stops himself, stating that this isn't right. He's held the Cosmic Cube. He's even used it. He's worn the Infinity Gauntlet and saved the world with a wave of his hand. But he is not a god. He is a guy who sometimes tells them what to do, and in a moment of hesitation, Doom retaliates, grabbing Cap by the throat, telling him, "All of this will be mine! The Phoenix will be Doom's!" However, earlier once more at the beginning of our story, the Avengers find themselves fighting Namor's Defenders of the Deep, struggling for the upper hand when the Phoenix makes her presence known. The battlefield stops as a fiery blaze explodes from the Phoenix's nest, and many of the fighters are taken away, seemingly vanishing. This is why there are people now fighting. The Phoenix was summoned and will pick her new champion. The people that were taken were chosen by the Phoenix to be in her tournament. And despite Doom showing his awesome power to everyone, Cap still stands, broken and bloody, telling himself that he can do this. Doom blasts himself again, telling him that he is not the same pallid bedwetter who enjoys mutilating corpses. This fight is finished. Cap pushes through. Even without his armor or his super soldier serum, he stands, fighting not to be kept down. As Doom is knocked away, he looks at Cap. "I understand. She will not let you die." Like the hero of some American cinematic fairy tale, the captain will keep rising again and again from his savage assaults, proving himself worthy of her power with his impressive ability to be brutally humiliated, yet remain upright. Whatever it is that she is searching for in a host, it is clearly not me. Doom forfeits! Suddenly, in a flash of light, Cap finds himself in a white room of nothing. Black Panther runs over to help him, and Jen says that Doom nearly killed him. Wolverine tells them, "That should tell you who won the first round." Cap tells him, "I did." Damn, and that raises a few questions. And Namor says no. It raises one question. Who's next? Like Cap, Black Panther mentally prepares himself for his battle. He goes to meditate just as Cap thought he would. He knows that this next one will take a lot of cunning, and that's when Man-Thing bursts out of the tree beside him, towering over him. Man-Thing swings his massive arm, but as the Phoenix fire fizzles out at the touch of Black Panther, he instead grabs him, throwing Panther across the field. Black Panther gets up, telling him, "I know that you're a noble being and that the Phoenix is infecting your mind, but I too am also an ally of your progeny. May we both forgive what I am about to do." Black Panther accepts the Phoenix power, throwing himself in, ripping apart Man-Thing until he is placed back in the White Room. Luke Cage looks over asking where is Man-Thing, and Black Panther tells him, he will regrow. As everyone tries to figure out what took place, Wolverine tells them that this is a place reserved for Phoenix wielders. Any of them got aims on joining him? Well, we may as well skip to the part where I stab every one of you. Cap tells him to save the threats. No one asked to be here, but Wolverine growls. He sure as hell did. Namor pushes his way through, yelling, "That is enough! Who will it be? Who must I sacrifice?" Black Knight says that one is rather unchivalrous. And Wolverine tells him he's desperate, reeks of desperation. Cap tells everyone to not take the bait, and then Jen runs in, changing into the She-Hulk to stop him. But before she can make it, both her and Namor are blasted into the ground, and the Black Knight says that he's guessing the dragon is telling them that they fight when she wants them to. A few moments later, Luke is teleported out and he sighs, asking why couldn't Danny be picked for this. He can see it now. Phoenix Man and Iron Fist, heroes for hire. Kinda does have a ring to it. But before he can say anything more, American Eagle lunges in, punching Luke with enough force that the man with the unbreakable skin could feel his jaw rattle. Up on the moon, Shauna the She-Devil never would have fought Moon Girl, but now has no problem fighting her time-displaced devil dinosaur. Back over in Subterranea, the once Thor turned Valkyrie Jane Foster is fighting Orb, but it's the next two fights that end rather quickly. Hyperion goes up against Shang-Chi, but as the strongest member of the Squadron Supreme, Hyperion can feel his super senses expanding. He can hear more languages than he can count, and as many races as there are stars, all laughing, crying, whispering their love to one another. It is a universe teeming with life, with rebirth, with such. This will change him. It will expand his mind in ways that he never thought possible. He cannot be this open-minded. Make it stop! And that is how Shang-Chi won his fight against Hyperion without even throwing a single punch. The fight with Red Widow and Howard the Duck, well, there's a reason why we don't see Howard the Duck that often. As the fighters dwindle in numbers, the Phoenix tells Black Panther that he could end this, and he says that he will, but not in the way that she wants. Phoenix laughs, telling the Panther, the man that she knew in her time was a man who fought with glowing rocks. Yet when he stood amongst gods, they could tell that he believed he could kill all of them, if he ever needed to. Black Panther tells her that Wakanda is older than Atlantis, despite being built upon an all-powerful resource that the rest of the world covets. In all her eons, she should have learned the difference between arrogance and fortitude. He will end this, no matter what it costs him or her. Phoenix laughs, telling him that she has been given form and sent here because she wants him. Give himself to her. She promises to burn the name of Wakanda across the stars. Black Panther tells her that that is not an offer. She has fought in defense of this planet in the past. Show him that she can do it again and he will spare her life. Continue this, and he will show her how a panther deals with a buzzard. Phoenix tells him that she admires his fortitude, but does he really believe that he can tame the Phoenix? Many have tried and seen their planets piled into a bonfire, so tell her this. How does a panther deal with a buzzard when the bird is feeding on its corpse? But before he can answer, Black Panther is pulled away for his next fight against the one man who could very well best him, or at the very least, prove an equal match. America's greatest detective, Nighthawk. The other fight begins shortly after in the ocean, where the seas burn, because down below, Maya Lopez is using her ability as Echo to copy any fighting style she sees, and she is facing off against an opponent with sheer power, the Submariner Namor. It isn't long before Namor has his hand around Echo's throat and the two begin to exchange punches as they plunge deeper and deeper into the depths below. As the two crash onto the seabed, Echo lunges back with her batons, managing to land a hit, but Namor takes one, snapping it in half. Still with the broken pace, Echo continues to fight. She begins to run at him with all of her strength, but Namor lends his powers to the sharks swimming around them. They quickly swim in, biting and pulling, keeping her in place as Namor opens up the seas themselves. He has no doubt that he will be the next to inherit the Phoenix, and with it, he will not just be the king of the seven seas, but also the heavens. The other fight that is happening is between Captain America and Shang-Chi, but Cap has a plan. Shang-Chi says that he is unsure of this, they shouldn't be fighting. Cap tells him that the feeling is mutual. They have to plan this accordingly. Someone will receive the power of the Phoenix, so if they can at least help pick who it is, he can control this power, win this fight. Now punch me in the face with the Phoenix. Shang-Chi does just that, and he begins to focus himself on ending the fight. Shang-Chi, master of Kung Fu, leader of the deadly hands, he will punch with all the fire of his soul. But he will walk instead of fly. He will guard his mind like the Forbidden City. He will never take another life, no matter what the... But that moment, there's an explosion and Cap opens his eyes to find himself in the White Room again. Damn it, I was losing! Jane tells him that it was a good plan, but she doesn't think the Phoenix likes it when its playthings try to make plans. Black Panther says that Shang-Chi's father was one of the foulest villains who ever lived. He had hoped that there would be enough darkness in his son's soul for the Phoenix's liking. Deep down, Shang-Chi's deep-seated refusal to follow his father's murderous footsteps proved his undoing. Jen looks over. Speaking of killers, Namor won his bout. I'm not sure about the others, but I could hear Echo screaming in my head, and I wanted to know what that slimy fish kisser did to her. Meanwhile, outside of all of this, Tony Stark, Carol, and the others are trying what they can to fight the Phoenix. However, this isn't just a fight for the heroes to overcome, at least not for Thor. For him, it feels a bit more personal. He knows the flame well. He knows it cannot be reasoned with. It is all boiling emotion and unbridled ego. It is narcissism at its fiery cosmic finest. He is Thor, Odin's son, Thunder, father of Asgard, and he despises the Phoenix, even if he cannot remember exactly why. As the tournament continues inside, outside, Thor is striking, and he can feel some connection of his own with the Phoenix Force, something that he has felt time and time again, but could never quite put his finger on it. Before Mjolnir can find its mark, God help him, it almost feels like there's some kind of love. Before Mjolnir could find its mark, the Phoenix appears in her human form, telling Thor, "I do not wish to fight today. You, least of all. It's time you knew the truth of your existence, the secret your father Odin has hidden for centuries. I have come to tell everyone that you are my son." But the bloody fights continue, and each time they get more devastating. The fight between Black Panther and Wolverine was explosive. Two men, both enhanced with precious alloy. But for Black Panther, it's not a matter of having the biggest claws, it's a matter of having the sharpest. However, Black Panther can feel his suit being overloaded. The Phoenix is sending more power to him. And during his time of struggle, Black Panther calls upon his ancestors to help him keep in control, and Wolverine uses that as a chance to win. He pins Black Panther down, two fiery claws on either side of Black Panther's head with a third ready to pop into his face. Wolverine asks him, "How about we just end this here before I have to do something I'd rather not? What do you say, T'Challa?" T'Challa tells him, "I will block it. The claw. The one that cuts bones like butter. I will block it with my teeth." As Black Panther smiles, he shows his vibranium-infused teeth. And Wolverine tells him, "You've got to be kidding me." So Black Panther tells him that he isn't the only one who can lace his entire body with a precious metal. He swings his leg up, kicking Wolverine between the legs, telling him, "Best to leave no weak spots unshielded." Meanwhile, outside, Thor asks Phoenix, "What did you say?" And she tells him that she called him what he is. It's not just the blood of the gods that flows through his veins, it's the blood of the Phoenix. She is his true mother, her beloved Thor, the Phoenix Son. He throws Mjolnir, shouting that she is lying. "Gaia, Earth Goddess was my birth mother." And the Phoenix flies away, telling him that Gaia was a lie, a necessary one. A reason for him to do what she and his father would never, protect the Earth. But believe her when she says that he would not exist if not for the Phoenix. He is a child of fire and thunder. Her child. She has come to him at last. Thor tries to fight, but the Phoenix tells him that the Phoenix remembers now. She remembers her love for him, whether she likes it or not. The Phoenix is wrestling with a mother's fear. She hopes a new avatar will burn this pain away because of him. The Phoenix is here for him, so come and feel the fire of a mother's love. But as she beats and wears Thor down, Jane Foster the Valkyrie flies through after losing her match, telling him, "Don't worry, I've got you. Looked like the Phoenix knocked you silly back there, Thor. And I know what it's like to be knocked silly after going 9 rounds with the savage Jen. Hey, if I'm carrying you and you're carrying Mjolnir, does that mean I'm still worthy?" Thor breaks free of her hold in a fit of rage, telling her, "Unhand me!" Jane tells him that she was just fighting Jen, and the whole time she was smashing things. The look in her eyes really freaked her out. But right now, All-Father Odin's son, you have that same look in yours. Thor tells her, "Do not call me by that name." Back in the White Room, the final 6 combatants appear. Captain America, Black Panther, Namor, Shauna the She-Devil, Red Widow, and She-Hulk. Without delay, the next bouts begin. She-Hulk versus Namor, Shauna versus the Red Widow, and Captain America versus Black Panther. As the two throw themselves at each other, Cap says to please tell him that they are not just fighting each other here. Please say that this was all just a pastime so they could figure out this entire mess. Black Panther grabs Cap, slamming him to the ground as Cap asks, "Do you think it should be you?" And Black Panther tells him, "I think it should be someone." Cap fights him off, telling him that they have the strongest team of Avengers ever assembled. Why would they take the risk? Why does there have to be a Phoenix? Black Panther says that he saw it on the cave wall. Ever since he discovered those million-year-old cave paintings, Tony Stark has come face to face with the prehistoric heroes that they represented. Thor has become the All-Father of Asgard. Robbie has become the most powerful Ghost Rider the world has ever seen. The starbrand has been reborn, and Black Panther leads the Avengers. The spirits of the past are speaking to them. They need a Phoenix, or else the Earth may not survive this age of chaos. Cap asks, what if it's the Phoenix they don't survive? And Black Panther says that the burning has begun. And if they are not the ones holding the torch, it means that they are tied to the stake. Meanwhile, over in Moscow, She-Hulk and Namor leave destruction in their path as they both fight to claim the right to become the bearer of the Phoenix. Namor smacks She-Hulk with a fighter jet, telling her, "You can't handle being the Phoenix! You can hardly handle being the Hulk!" She claps her hands together, releasing a powerful blast. "Don't care about Phoenix! Just care about smashing you!" The two struggle back and forth, but as She-Hulk pins Namor down, she rips off his arms, yelling, "Namor can't handle being the Phoenix! He can't even handle having arms!" As the two limbs begin to choke She-Hulk, Namor tells him, "You have never wielded cosmic power like I have." As it was in the days of Utopia, so it shall be again. I am Namor, the Star Mariner. I am. But before he could finish, he's knocked back into the ground, creating a crater in the middle of Moscow. Back over at Avengers Mountain, Thor struggles to break free from his chains, and Jane tells everyone that Thor has completely lost his mind. The all-weapon won't hold him for long. They need to take the Vulture down before somebody dies. However, somebody did die, or at least they felt like they did. They don't think that this was supposed to happen this way. They don't think that they were the one that it wanted, or the one that wanted it the most, but certainly they weren't the one that it loved. And as the tournament continues and the fighters battle, this being started appearing before them, and the Phoenix's powers began to fade. First, it was with Shauna and Red Widow. Next was with She-Hulk and Namor. The being thought to themselves that, judging by all the memories of times long past rushing through, getting chosen was never about being a winner. To be the Phoenix, you have to suffer. You have to have fallen. And they certainly did. The Phoenix is drawn to emotion, not strength. It already has all the strength that it needs. It can adapt itself to its host, but it has never had a host capable of wielding it in so many different ways. Able to fight in any style, with any weapon. Though when Namor sensed a spike in energy, he sought to take it for himself, and he failed, miserably. Finally, there was Cap and Black Panther. The two stopped fighting, seeing the power leaving them, the Phoenix's abilities gone. But there was no victor, and the power wasn't leaving. It was being taken. Thor called out to the Phoenix, but the Phoenix tells him that she wished they had more time. She's sorry that she didn't come back sooner. And if there's anything left of her after this, she will find him again. No, it's not just her that she does this for, it's for him as well. And as she leaves, Thor shouts that he has to know the truth. And the Phoenix tells him that the truth is complicated. Just know that he is the only begotten child of the Phoenix, a cosmic entity, a being that is feared across the cosmos. He is the son of the Thunderbird. And as the Phoenix is made whole, a blinding light begins to shine, and from it a figure appears, Echo. Her name is Maya Lopez. She is an echo of all the fire and life that has come before her. She is the Thunderbird of old and of tomorrow, and she is the Phoenix. As the tournament concludes, Jean reaches out telepathically to Echo, telling her that if she can hear her, she doesn't have to be the Phoenix alone. She is a loner. It likes loners. But she can't let it isolate her from the things that make her human. Not if she wants to keep her soul, and for the sake of everyone, hopefully she does just that. Hopefully she can make it. Good luck, and happy birthday, Phoenix. Happy Rebirth Day. After having fought Phil Coulson and Mephisto, and stopped the two from altering reality and then battling against the Phoenix Force, the Avengers had found themselves with a moment to breathe without having to take up arms. But while going over some of the diagnostics of the Celestial in the Avengers Mountain, Tony Stark begins to notice that their Mountain Man seems to be going through a serious hangover, finding problems all along the way. At the time of these tests, Gorilla Man swings by, and then Tony asks him if he can take a look at these readings. But Gorilla Man just ignores him and continues on to the teleportation room. Once inside and at the controls, Gorilla Man begins to deactivate the security protocols and activates the teleporter to allow access to the mountain. At that moment, the platform lights up, and within seconds, the Winter Guard appears, and the Red Widow asks, "How many are on site?" Gorilla Man tells her 5, plus the Phoenix and some Star Kid, who frankly scares the hell out of Gorilla Man. He has poisoned Avengers Mountain, but they won't have long. Down on the lower level, She-Hulk continues to try and focus her mind after having fought several battles recently that nearly caused her to revert to the simple-minded Hulk mentality of just smashing things. But while Carol is congratulating her on staying strong, Crimson Dynamo and Darkstar burst in shouting, "We're here to arrest the She-Hulk!" Carol tells the security program that they are under attack, but the computer responds that the request has not been recognized. Error, the Mountain's brain is broken. Darkstar then puts Carol down, telling her that justice will be done this day, in the name of the Russian Federation. Crimson Dynamo begins to punch She-Hulk, telling her, "You have a right to remain silent. You will, whether you like it or not. Hulkbuster, engage!" She-Hulk struggles to push Dynamo back, but before she realizes it, Dynamo's armor detaches itself from him and wraps itself around the She-Hulk. It encases her in the armor, rocketing her back towards the teleportation room. As the Hulkbuster bounces off the walls on its arrival, She-Hulk begins to rip it apart from the inside, and Ursa Major says that he has eyes on the package, but it looks like Dimitri's wrapping is coming undone.
Vanguard tells Ursa to engage the carbonanium tasers. And as the two of them tase She-Hulk and slow her down, Red Widow walks up telling everyone to activate the oral dampeners. She's going to use the sonic bazooka to end this conflict. Red Widow activates the ultrasonic sound waves to try and subdue She-Hulk, but She-Hulk grabs the taser wires, flinging Vanguard into Ursa, allowing her to take down Red Widow. As Red Widow tries to dodge the reckless attack, she tells Vostok that they're losing containment. Do something! Vostok floats behind her, telling her that it would be his pleasure, and begins to liquefy himself, seeping into any opening that his synthetic skin can get into that will allow him to knock She-Hulk out. As Vostok finally enters She-Hulk's body to take her down, the rest of the Winter Guard moves in, carrying her back to the teleportation room where Gorilla Man preps everything to send them back to Russia. But while doing so, Ursa Major whispers to Gorilla Man asking, "What the hell is happening? You said Black Panther would be ready to stop us. Where are the Avengers?" And Dynamo shouts for Ursa to hurry up. But Red Widow tells him, "No, it's all right. Let the traitor stay." And she stabs Ursa Major in the throat. As the giant bear slumps over dead, Gorilla Man tells her that that wasn't a part of the plan. "It was supposed to be me who died. That was the deal." But Red Widow tells him that whatever deal he has is with the King of the Vampires. Gorilla Man shouts that Dracula said that she'd give him what he wanted if he helped. He said that she'd kill him. Red Widow puts away her sword, pointing a finger at Gorilla Man. Bang! And then leaves him to forever remember his betrayal for the rest of his immortal life. Back in Russia, She-Hulk is tried and convicted of crimes against Russia and her people, and is sentenced to reconditioning in the Red Room. A week goes by, and while Red Widow tries to break She-Hulk's mind, She-Hulk just recites the rules and articles of law to try and keep herself from slipping and losing herself. Red Widow asks, "Who is she?" Jennifer says, Jennifer something. Red Widow tells her that she is a Hulk, and what do Hulks do? She-Hulk begins to struggle mentally, but finally says, "Hulks, smash!" and then bursts out of the wall, punching holes as she tries to escape the Red Room facility. She comes to a room full of dolls, and she pauses to stare when suddenly all of them spin around and begin to attack her. Each of them different parts of Omega Red, Winter Soldier, but all super killers just like her, just like the Hulk. But after being recaptured, Red Widow asks why isn't she going to try and murder everyone? She should have been shattered into 1,000 screaming pieces at this point. Vostok says that she is showing remarkable self-control by keeping her gamma powers contained. Perhaps She-Hulk isn't as simple-minded and savage as they would like to believe. But even though she resists, he is still breaking her walls down, and soon her mind will be theirs. After a few more moments, Vostok says that he got word that the Avengers are here, currently inside of the building. Red Widow asks if she's ready. Can they send She-Hulk in to kill them? Vostok says that the spider's eggs have all been laid in her mind. They just need a little bit more time to hatch. So Red Widow takes a pair of guns formed by Vostok. We may not have that sort of time. We're already down one traitorous bear, and Perun and Chernobyl are off-world. Moments after leaving, Carol punches her way through the walls, and Red Widow opens fire. "Hello, pretty puppy!" As she opens fire, Carol asks if she has some sort of death wish. That would be the only way to explain why she's using bullets. Red Widow tells her yes, she does make wishes for death. Millions of wishes, including hers. But those aren't bullets. Before Carol can even realize it, the bullets shot into her are pieces of Vostok, all at once releasing themselves to bind and bring her down. But back with Vostok himself, he's having a hard time keeping She-Hulk contained while she tries to fight and free herself when he notices that there is a steady increase of heat coming off of her. Suddenly she releases a gamma blast from her mouth, melting Vostok, freeing herself from his control. But back with Carol Danvers, she too manages to free herself, and as she subdues the Red Widow, she uses some of the cables connected to the Red Room to tie her up by her arms, stating that she needs to relax and think about what she's done. Vanguard begins to report that Dynamo is down, but the giant green fist swings again, shattering Vanguard's shield into 100 million pieces. And while She-Hulk begins to choke Vanguard, Tony and Cap stare, with Tony asking,
I have a quick question. Do you think she knows who she's fighting? She-Hulk screams as she begins to take down the rest of the facility, and rocks begin to fall, with Captain America radioing in that they need an immediate medevac for the Winter Guard. Ghost Rider picks up the comms.
I can hear you. Hopefully the Hell Charger is immediate enough for you.
But while She-Hulk escapes, Tony scans the area and reports that he found the Synthoid, or what's left of him, with Cap asking, "What about Red Widow?" Tony shines his light and states that they found Red Widow's arm. But up ahead in the woods, Red Widow radios her contact stating that it is done, or as done as she can make it, but it is not without a price. In addition to the payload, she will need one of his agents to leave an arm for her. Yes, a literal arm. As a small price of payment, the asset has been successfully deployed and will go as instructed. She is theirs. They have their very own Winter Hulk. Later in Bulgaria, Gorilla Man sits in a bar trying to drink his sorrows for his betrayal away, when suddenly a giant red arm breaks open the door. She-Hulk walks in, literally not stopping for anyone or anything in her way. Gorilla Man stays put. They did it. Those crazy Russians actually did it. She-Hulk grabs him by the head, and as all of the other patrons of the bar surround her, She-Hulk releases another gamma-irradiated blast, burning everyone, and leaving with the Gorilla Man under her arm. Sometimes you find yourself in a hole so deep and godforsaken you figure there's no way out. That's where I live. Just leave me there and walk away. However, She-Hulk doesn't do that. In fact, she does the exact opposite. As morning comes, Gorilla Man continues rowing a small boat, trying to catch his breath. Look, as someone who's long made a living being in the wrong place at the wrong time, listen to me when I tell you that this is the last place that you want to be. Soon, the small boat passes by several wrecked ships that have traveled too far into the Atlantean territory. He then goes on stating that whatever it is that she is thinking, it won't work. There's an army of them down there, an army of super strong, sea-breathing barbarians. This is what the Red Widow programmed you to do. It's what the Russians want. It's what the whole surface world wants. They're counting on you to go down there, fist flying, and She-Hulk struggles to try and keep her thoughts to herself, and then jumps into the water and begins to swim it down towards Atlantis. Gorilla Man sits there for a moment and then tells himself, I should just row away and row straight to the nearest bar. But at that moment, several swords stab up into the boat as several more Atlanteans jump up attacking. Death to all human defilers of Mother Ocean. Gorilla Man roars, grabbing the man, asking, "Who are you calling human?" At that moment, a red hand reaches out of the water and begins to pull each Atlantean down one by one until the sea begins to turn red with their blood. As Gorilla Man begins to climb back onto the boat, he sees She-Hulk surface and tells her to do a worthless gorilla one last favor. Show him that he was wrong about everything. Show him that real heroes never forget who they are, that only losers like him do. Don't let the Red Widow win. She-Hulk dives back underwater, swimming towards Atlantis, with only one target needing to be put down: Namor, the Submariner. She-Hulk swims towards the ocean floor, but on the other side, Red Widow is swimming down with her team, getting ready to plant a warhead that will take out Atlantis and its people. Meanwhile, back up top, Gorilla Man is patching himself up, taking a deep breath. Kill the Gorilla Man, live forever, they said. Oh well, guess forever isn't what it used to be. But before long, She-Hulk punches her way through the middle of Atlantis, standing before the great Namor himself. However, this meeting, the assault on Atlantis, with She-Hulk leading the charge and Red Widow setting up a 68 megaton gamma bomb, there are layers to this, more than what is seen at the surface. You see, on the surface of this entire event, it could be seen as the Winter Guard brainwashing the She-Hulk to add to their roster, to create their own World War She-Hulk, where she starts a war by having the surface world blow up the Atlanteans. And this is partly true. The true purpose of She-Hulk's capture was so that they could use her to instigate a fight between Atlantis and the surface world. And while She-Hulk was focused on fighting Namor, Red Widow would set up a bomb that would kill most of the Atlanteans. While slipping out after the explosion, it would leave She-Hulk at the center, painting her as the one who initiated the fight, not Russia. Just like an onion, there are more layers than just that. In a briefing brought in by General Okoya, there's a deeper situation at play. Due to She-Hulk's extensive background and work with the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. and how she has served many tours, all while still having a successful law career, she was made into a unique candidate. One that was allowed to be captured and made to believe that she was brainwashed, only to stop the Winter Guard's plan before it could do any real damage. Prevent the World War from happening. The Avengers, at least, She-Hulk and Black Panther, knew that Russia was planning an attack on Atlantis. As to how and when, it was actually unknown. Knowing that She-Hulk would be a prime target for Red Room reconditioning, they gave her mental awareness over the past several battles, and a proposal was made. One to allow her to infiltrate the Winter Guard and learn of the planned attack. And just when it would seem that She-Hulk was about to kill Namor, she changed objectives and made this plan known. She made her way to the Red Widow and her team to intercept the bomb. A fight ensued between her and the Winter Guard, one where the Red Widow injected herself with Hulk blood taken from She-Hulk when she had been reconditioned. That literally didn't last long, about one punch. But now they just had one final problem. The looming threat of a bomb made of gamma radiation still remained. She-Hulk took that explosion in. She absorbed 68 megatons of gamma radiation. She walked forward. She was looking for an answer. What to do with it? She was ready to explode at any second, and if she did, she would take out countless miles of the Earth and leave it uninhabitable for who knows how long. But Jennifer remembered something from one of her jogs, back when the dead Celestials were falling out of the sky. She had stopped and connected with its dead body, seeing something that most others might have missed. There was a place within the Celestial that she could retreat to. One where she could release all of the gamma in a secure location, inside of the Avengers base of a giant Celestial. There was a secret chamber. Lucky enough for the Avengers, the release also cleared out the poison that Gorilla Man had infected their base with. And the results of the release of all of that excess gamma, it reverted She-Hulk to her original look, as well as allowing her to keep her full brain functionality while still being a Hulk. She was classic She-Hulk once again. Which is why, now that they are all standing in the Supreme Court of the Russian Federation, She-Hulk explains that this entire legal proceeding to defame has been a frivolous, fraudulent, and outright felonious perversion of justice. Not to mention a waste of her very expensive time. A formal apology from the entire Russian legal system should be forthcoming, but she'll settle for a complete and immediate dismissal of all criminal charges leveled against her.
And there you have it, issues 1 through 50 of the Avengers run by Jason Aaron. Now, I know the story moves into another one that he did called Avengers Forever that wraps up it all with a weird multiversal adventure, but it's so big I figured it's going to be its own video eventually. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time right here.